Welcome back to another enthralling episode of CreepCast. I need to get like a nice Tales from the Crypt or like a nice Dracula laugh. We need like a nice evil laugh.
We do. We need to pay some absurd actor too much money. We need to get like I know he's dead, but like the Vincent Price laugh, you know? Exactly. Yeah. I bet we could get Christopher Walken. I bet he's got a good laugh. We could commission that. That's a good use of income.
That's what I imagine Christopher Walken. Yeah, I'd love to just be like, "Welcome back to CreepCast." Today we are stepping out of our. This is the first time. This is virgin territory we're going into on this show. It is the first time we are stepping out of No Sleep, our comfort zone, and we are going into Twitter ARGs, which if you want to explain what Twitter ARGs to people so they kind of know what's going on.
Absolutely. So basically, a Twitter ARG is normally when someone creates a Twitter account or at least a story within Twitter where they imply themselves to be the individual going through the stuff they're going through. Some popular examples of that is things like Dear David. That's an example where the creator, just a normal Twitter user who's like, so this strange thing's been happening to me, and they start to catalog supernatural events. That's one example. Another example is when you have an entire Twitter account dedicated to a story, like The Sun Vanished. That's a very popular one. And the one we're going to be covering today is another example of a completely dedicated account, and that is the Gregory88 account. So, are you familiar at all with the Gregory88 plotline?
No, I don't know any of these. I'm going in fresh. I mean, I had a couple questions for you because it seems like you have experienced some of these before. Mm-hmm. Like, whenever people make these accounts, right? Do they how long does it take for people to realize like, oh, this is becoming like this is what this is? Or did some of these start before people even knew what this archetype of storytelling was?
A lot of them started before like the concept became popular. Like for example, the Dear David guy, Adam Ellis, that's his name. The Dear David guy, Adam Ellis, he was just a normal Twitter user for years. I believe he worked at BuzzFeed, or at least the movie got picked up by BuzzFeed eventually. But he does like comics, like he does comedic comics and stuff like that. So he was like a popular Twitter user who all of a sudden was like, strange things are happening around my apartment. So that takes a really long time for people to be like, is this real? Is this, a story, or is this something strange actually happening to this guy? And some of the best Twitter ARGs kind of keep it in a gray zone, right? Of maybe this is someone who individually, like for you, Hunter, if for example, tomorrow you're like, there's this weird thing I keep seeing around the property, and you start to catalog it, that could be an example of people not knowing if it's real or not. But typically, like if someone starts like a burner account to be like, there's something in the woods, like people catch on pretty quick. But what's interesting about the format is where something like No Sleep makes the writer find creative ways to convey their piece of work or what have you to the audience. Or like, for example, they'll get to the end of the story and they'll be like, if anyone's reading this, blah, 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 it's posted here. Whereas on the Twitter ARGs, normally they are constantly keeping up with replies, tweets, things people are saying. It's like a live interaction with people who are reading, which is pretty cool. You can do some neat stuff with it.
Yeah, I mean, that was kind of similar to my dead girlfriend's messaging me on Facebook story as well. Kind of interacting in that way. That kind of like interaction with these horror stories is such a fascinating way to tell it. And do we know exactly who Greg is?
Not that I know of. It may be known later on, because the Gregory... So I'm actually familiar with this story specifically. I don't remember how it ends, which is useful for what we're doing today. But I remember reading... Like, whenever this ARG first started up, I saw some tweets about it and was, like, keeping up with it. I don't think I kept up with it till the ending. But I remember as it was coming out, there were a lot of people, like... oh, cool, what's happening? Oh, and like interacting with him and stuff, but I don't remember him ever revealing himself as the creator or the author.
So it looks like the first tweet here was in July 22nd, 2018. Pretty simple, straightforward. Guess I'm going to try Twitter again. with a nice little, what do you do emoji.
Yeah, just like it's a new social media account. There's some early tweets in it where it's just kind of like, hey, I'm back to Twitter. Oh, I'm watching this TV show. This food was really good at the club last night, just to kind of making it feel lived in. But then our story begins on August the 27th of 2018. So the account existed for like a month before Gregory88 got into the story of it, basically.
Yeah, I mean, there's just some simple post of like he's showing cocktails, he's showing like food, kind of giving just like a really, really normal approach to stuff. I mean, it looks like it's just, I mean, like, August 5th, maybe this year I will finally watch Lost. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, just like basic tweets. Yeah.
Right. And then you said it was, August 27th, 2018. Greg he says, just found out my grandpa died. Never really knew him, but still. Kind of an interesting little segue there. And then he has one follow-up, says, my mom never wanted to talk about him, and I've never really asked. Sad face. That is a sad face emoji, man.
What's fun about it too is if you go to the replies on that tweet, it's a bunch of people tagging their friends, being like, "It starts here. This is the first tweet. You can start it here." So
just right here.
Yeah,
Please start here.
Yeah. You may begin.
Right.
Yeah, so that's fun.
Guys, grandpa died. It's right here. That is funny. all the tags. Interesting. So this is just the nice little jumping off point. So does that mean too that whenever this first came out, because it's 1,000 likes, it's not like some viral thing. I was almost expecting some of these tweets to have like, I don't know, 40,000 likes, just to show like, oh, hey, look at the engagement on these. But it's relatively, I mean, little. Like it's still like with the amount of likes there's on it, it still feels very real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it feels like it could still be like a hidden little story you came across, which is like the really fun part about these ARGs. Because imagine if you just came across this, like you didn't see it in a YouTube video or someone didn't say it was scary, it just popped up in your feed one day. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. October 29th, we have him, he says, made a new friend, and it's a picture of a slug. a nice little snail. So there you go. And then it looks like it picks back up on October 29th.
Click on that tweet and then go to the top of the thread, and this is our first dive into the storyline.
All right, yeah. And I want to preface, or as we want to preface this as well, is that a lot of these are going to be like, let us find these tweets. It's like kind of it's going to be a weird juggling act just to make sure that we're properly
that we're not
doing this.
Missing anything. Yeah,
exactly. The narrative is being directed correctly. So like he said, October 29th, 2018, it looks like at the beginning of this thread, it says, something weird is happening in the woods outside my house, and I don't know what to do. Okay, there you go. Yeah, 12,000 likes. I was like, now we're starting to get to someplace here.
Cool. So now we truly get into the story on October the 29th of 2018. It reads, something weird is happening in the woods outside my house, and I don't know what to do. I guess I should start at the beginning. This isn't really my house. It was my grandpa's, but I guess it's mine now. He died a couple months ago, and because of some tricky paperwork, I'm apparently responsible for it now. He lived pretty far away, up in the mountains by the lake. There are a couple other houses down the road, but they seemed like they're empty for the season. I assume they're summer houses. I've been here for a few days, and it's really pretty, but it's super quiet and chilly. And then he attaches some images of what the nearby, what the property looks like.
Basically a picture of a lake, essentially, and just it's a very wooded area, very isolated is what it looks like.
Yeah, if you've seen, for audio listeners, if you've seen woods and water before, just picture that.
Yeah. Have you ever seen a lake before?
Yeah. You ever seen like water, but it's in one place and outside? That's what it is. Yeah.
I know. It's a weird concept. I know.
He continues on from that and says, my mom never talked about my grandpa, and I only met him once, when I was really young. I think they had a bad relationship, but the few times I asked about it, she got annoyed and changed the subject. So basically, I don't really know what I'm doing here. This guy from my grandpa's estate basically told me the house is mine now, so I came up here to sell it as fast as I can and go home. I guess it's not that easy to just sell a house, especially one in the middle of nowhere. At any rate, I think I'm alone up here. Or at least I was. I figured I'd be up here for a couple weeks to get all this handled, and then I'd go home and be done with it. I'm on a break from grad school, so I don't have any other responsibilities at the moment. But now, weird things are starting to happen. It started on my third day here. There's a little town about 25 minutes away, and I'd gone to get some food and supplies since I don't know how long I'm staying. When I got back that evening, there was something strange on my door. It was this artifact. I don't know what to call it. It was obviously handmade. It was made of sticks and twine and had some small bones tied into the middle of it.
And for our audio listeners here, I would say it's reminiscent. It's basically like thin sticks making a triangle, and in the center of the triangle are two bones that are kind of tied between a small piece of twine. I would say very much just kind of think of like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Yeah, something, one of those things in the woods. Not necessarily a figure, but just a triangle. Still very creepy.
Yeah. Basically, he comes home. There's this weird thing that looks like probably like small animal bones. Although I guess you could say those may be finger bones. But
can I go on a limb here? Sorry to interject. If the first time I see this on my door, I'm not going back.
I'm leaving. I'm leaving. Yeah.
Grandpa just dropped off. Gave me a new house, and the area's kind of pretty. And there's a pagan artifact just on my door. Hello? No. I'm already. It was this artifact ? I don't know, man. It's this part of the movie where I'm like, why would you not just run away immediately?
Oh, it must be the neighbors. They seem so friendly around here.
It was probably just an inquisitive fox.
I bet this was the work of a friend and nothing else.
Grandpa always said there were friends in these woods, and now I know what he meant.
Well, see, now I want what he does next. I want your opinion on that. So after that tweet, he says, I didn't think too much of it at the time. I figured it was probably a kid from one of the other houses trying to mess with me, so I took it off the door and tossed it in the fireplace.
Oh, God. Why? Oh, God. First off, you're contradicting yourself because he's like, yeah, everyone's pretty much gone because of the season. And now he's saying that there's children? It's probably one of the random evil children across the lake. Well, I don't want their gift, so I'm going to burn it. Don't burn the artifact, dude. Rule 1. I think we can establish that with all the stuff that we've read and everything so far.
Yep.
If you ever find something like this, I would say just don't even touch it. Don't mess with it. Rule 1, right?
Well, look, here, all I'm saying is every forest that I know, every self-respecting forest has the pagan child, right? That runs runs through the forest and leaves stuff.
Yeah.
And I suppose burning their gifts is an appropriate response. I always just kept them, just like put them up in my house. I thought they were cool, but I don't know. That's just me.
Well, and that's because, and you know what? Even if you did do that, I think that the pagan evil baby children would respect that more. If they find out that you burnt it, it is going to be hell to pay.
Yeah, I think
I would say
so.
also in general.
Well, what would you do if you were in this scenario? Would you not burn?
Oh,
would
dude,
you?
I wouldn't touch it.
Would you just leave?
I would be. I've thought about this. If anything paranormal happens, I'm gonna be scared, right? I'm gonna be like, oh my God, like if there's like a ghost, oh God, like quivering like that. But I'm gonna pretend that I don't even know, like, oh, just reading my book doesn't matter. Everything's normal here. I would act like I don't even see it. This is just okay. My door handle looks more decorative today. I wouldn't even acknowledge it. Honestly, that's what I would do. I would be so scared. Or honest, I would probably leave. There would be no way that I could justify that somebody made something with bones, twigs and twine. First off, it's like, where did you find the twigs and twine? Yes, you can find the branches places, but to even go to the store and purchase twine, I don't know that person, and I would have to be completely disconnected with it. We got to keep continuing. Because
let's put it this way. Right? Let's take a step back and kind of observe the story so far. This person's a grad student. We'll call him Greg. Greg is a grad student. Right. So he's going through school, probably doesn't have that much money. Maybe like not really a strained relationship with his mom, but not enough that his mom's willing to talk about her father. Right. Sure. He's probably not that well off. And then he's suddenly gifted a house that he could probably sell for like $250,000, right? Countryside, nice house, stuff like that.
Oh, dude. Nice, beautiful piece of property.
He can't just walk away from that. Right. He has to do something.
Absolutely can. I want to go on a limb and say here's something too, and we're getting too far off the story, but I want to say this: if a family member, a grandpa of mine that I've never met, and has no relationship to me whatsoever, gave me property and it's free money, and I'm like, hey, where do I sign to sell this? Is what I would say immediately. I have no personal ties to this, right? And also to assume that you're a grad student and you want to live in the middle of nowhere on a lake? Are you kidding me? Yeah, right, dude. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be sympathetic for at least he hasn't lost me at this moment. At this moment.
Okay, all right.
He's
all right.
lost you.
Hey, no,
To you, he's chum. He's shark bait. Who cares? But
He's shark bait Wendigoon because here's the thing, Isaiah, is on you're like, hey, it's really beautiful out here, and then you come back. Let's just say it's the third day you've been there, and there is a Blair Witch Project artifact on your door. It's not even like, hey, I've lived here for a year, I'm settled, right? That's a different story. That's a totally different story. Greg is so new to this, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. And then he burns it. He's a dunce. He's a goon. I don't respect Greg already. We got to continue. I'm sorry, listener. That's all I got. I have nothing. I have nothing but hate in my heart.
okay,
right
well now out of necessity, I have to be a Greg defender.
That's fine.
Because if we both hate him, this is just gonna be mean. So I've got to come to his aid.
You have to bear that cross.
I have to bear that cross. Yeah. Okay. So
Yes.
the guy who rightfully so burned the pagan artifact says,
Right.
By the next, I reached the water, but there was nothing there. I saw some faint ripples out in the black water, but besides that, it was silent. It was over. I was too late. I'm back at the house now. The woman's gone. It's so quiet. I don't know what to say right now. I'm going to leave in the morning. I'm sorry. I just don't know what else to say. I'm sorry. And there we have the end of that January 5th thread, I think.
Yeah, so that should be the end of it, and then it goes up to the January 16th one, and this is his last entry was on January 16th.
Yes, this is the finale, as far as we know, at the moment at least, because it could pick up any day, these things, but
Sure, you never know.
At the moment, this is the end of the series. I'm still here. I'm alive. I left the house after that night. I decided not to sell it. I don't think anyone would buy it anyway. I locked the doors and I got in my car and I left. I'm home now, trying to process everything. The morning after, it was so quiet and peaceful in the woods, it was like nothing had happened at all. I'm still not sure what to believe. It sort of feels like it happened to someone else, or like I dreamed it, maybe. Sorry it took me so long to update. I wasn't sure what to say. I still have so many questions. I might never have all the answers, but something happened out there. I can't explain it, and I don't know if I could have done anything to stop it. But whatever it was, I can't let it happen again. That's why I'm not selling the house. That woman said this happens every year. If she was telling the truth, then maybe there's something I can do next time. I have to try. So I guess that's all for now. I'm heading back to school next week, so hopefully that will take my mind off things. I need some sense of normalcy again. I'm not sure when I'll tweet again. I need to take a break and get my head together, but I'll be back. I have to go back. I won't let it happen again. And there we have the ending of the Gregory 88 story.
The Gregory 88 story ends there. You know what's interesting about this one is the realism of following the story, and I kind of like that it doesn't get so detailed to where it's like Greg just found out everything. Greg found, like, you get little glimpses of stuff, and you have this woman who's obviously, in my opinion, is definitely the twin of his mom, who's trying to protect him, which is also maybe why when he does these things, and he burns these protective things at first, maybe that's why he gets some of the things that are messing with him. But it seems like he was protected in this incident from whatever kind of creature that's been existing in this lake for however long, and now these town folks have just been living here forever, which is why they're so like, oh, this is somebody new. Like, they're probably super old, you know what I mean? And they're having these twins, and they have to offer them up to the chicken aliens. I'm still believing that they're chicken aliens, but I will say the story reminds me a lot of like Dagon. It reminds me of like the Innsmouth story, where it's like a town is plagued by a creature or a deity. In this case, it was like some eldritch god in the case of H.P. Lovecraft, and it makes them live longer and it makes them rich, but it distorts them into fish people. It kind of gave me that vibe. Obviously, the people aren't being like transformed in that way. They just have to kind of sacrifice one of their offspring, which is kind of interesting. But I don't know. This was a fun one. I think it's cool. I mean, how do you feel about it? How do you feel about the ending?
All right, so I remember now why I didn't remember how it ended. And it's because I forgot that it ended that way. It ended like what felt like in Virtue, like, you know, middle of the action. Okay. I love the premise a lot.
Yep.
I think it's the idea, like, I found my grandfather's old house. There's a squatter there. It becomes this like cult conspiracy. To me, the story peaks with the Deepwater Chapel reveal, because it asks so many questions about why was this a church? What did my grandfather have to do with it? Was he the pastor? Did he come to own it?
Yep.
Why was it changed? Why is everyone in the town around it? Is this why there's cult happenings around it? Because it was a church. It puts you right in the seat. I think that's the pinnacle of the story, and then from there, I think it nosedives a bit. What it feels like from a writing perspective is that he had a lot of threads. I say he because the name's Greg. Whoever wrote this. I feel like whoever wrote this had a lot of threads that they were actively working on that for some reason they wrapped up really quickly. We did not get an explanation as to what the eyeless one... Like, we get that she's eyeless because the thing's Bitterface. Sure. But we don't get an explanation as to how she connects to the chapel, why she has a loyalty to the grandson of maybe the preacher, the person who owns it. We do not know what I mean, sure, we are given enough inference. We can assume that when this thing came to Earth, that maybe the Deepwater Chapel was its first congregants, right? Maybe the pastor, maybe, you know, his grandfather was the person who spoke and like convinced townspeople that they need to give in to these new alien invaders. And you could even imagine a really cool scenario where you have a pastor in this old-timey church who is convincing his congregants that this is Jesus, right? Or that this is the second coming and that people need to give themselves to it. They need to offer up their children like Abraham offered up Isaac to God. There's so many cool visuals you could pull off with that. But everything I just said is inference, because we're like, if he found like an altar underground in the cellar, right? Then maybe that would have some more explanation as to why the mom doesn't even want to mention the grandfather's name. But if that's the case, then the mom should dissuade her son from going back there at all, if it was to that level of extreme.
Yeah,
so
that doesn't... There's too many things left. I mean, like, the biggest thing being the grandpa. I mean, especially if the whole thing is, like, pretty much they're saying that the Prosper, that this basically new deity that falls to Earth and is living there, is offering the town for consumption to eat, or for consumption is immortality, is what they're saying. Or at least prolonged life, right?
Give us your young, and we'll give you long life, basically. Which honestly... I think this is the reason that the story frustrates me so much, because that is such a cool premise, because it is a church that deals with like a lot of American Gothic aesthetics, Deepwater Chapel, right? How cool is that? But then what the church is theoretically doing in our headcanon for it, at least, is they're doing what a lot of the pagan religions of the Old Testament would do. They would serve up their children to Baal and to the false gods so that they were given strength and magic and long life or what have you, that they're reverting to this Old Testament evil. It's such a cool idea, but everything we just said is like, maybe this is what happened. And sometimes that's cool in horror, like leaving it up to the audience's imagination, but not entire plot threads, not entire, character changes.
There's too much left. There's too many things given at the beginning that I don't think fully come around. Because I think, like you're saying, there's ways where you can leave it to where it's like, well, dude, is he supposed to find out everything? And the answer is probably no, realistically, the majority of the time. But I think that you can at least unveil enough to where, that at least you can let your mind run with it a bit more with some of the information that's given to you. I mean, dude, you're given giant eggs in the woods.
Yes,
and
correct.
It's like, and it's one of these things where it's like you're giving all of these these kind of big subject matter or themes in the story, and they never really come back around. Like, I'm almost wondering if instead of a kid who isn't even graduated college yet, a college student who's given a house, right? Instead, if it was something where it's like, hey, the grandpa's alive, and he's been alive way too long, and he's still alive, and he lives there, and you're taking care of this grandpa character or whatever, and now you have the eyeless, bald woman who basically survived this mutilation.
That would give him more reason to not leave, right? Beyond just,
exactly.
I feel for some reason I need to stick around, yeah.
You need to stick with them. You could also have the mom who survived that was chosen to be the one where he's like, I choose you to live, and I'm going to sacrifice your sister, your twin sister. She could feel some kind of like loyalty to this religion, where she's like, you need to take after your grandpa, blah, 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 all this stuff, which is also why you could have the woman who survived this attack is basically resentful towards this father and has been like trying to kill him or do something along those. You can just set up that stuff, right? Yeah. And then you have the town of people who is essentially a cult who's like worshiping this kind of god or this religion, and you can have more themes in that, but it just really doesn't explore any of the things that I wish it would have. Because like you're saying, dude, it sets up all these cool things.
That's the only reason that I care, because it is cool. It is cool ideas that are being put out there. It's just not really going anywhere. Like, for example, the egg thing. Go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, it's my first Twitter ARG. I have nothing else to compare it to. So the approach to this is still new to me, but it still feels like, even if it is kind of a new way of telling a story, I still think that you need some of those pieces of information, some of those plot threads or something to put in there.
Like, okay, for example, the egg thing, right? If there was given more explanation, like, say, for example, we find out maybe what would be cool is if, let's say, his grandfather is the pastor of this place, would explain how he owns the building. And obviously it quit being a church at some point because it was renovated into a house. Or maybe it'd be even creepier if it was a church and then the townspeople renovated it into a house because they needed his grandson to be there for some reason. See, all the stuff I'm doing is like conjecture. It's not stuff that's in the story. But for example, the egg thing, right? Maybe he finds his grandfather's book of sermons or writings or something like that. And maybe it is a kind of idolatry for them to disrupt the image of the womb, the image of the egg. Maybe that's why there's no eggs in the town, because it's a disgrace to their new god. That is a feasible explanation, but as it stands in the story, it's just really goofy. Like, they can't eat eggs.
Well, that's what I mean. Is
because they worship the big egg. What?
There's nothing that comes full circle. It's like, it's like they worship the big egg or whatever.
Yeah.
There's nothing that really makes sense to why that's not in the town, or there's just too much.
And sure, it'd be a bit cheesy, but if he could find like a writing from his grandfather in his shelf of books, which is where I thought that was going to go in the story, have some detail where it's like, we should not put forward the idolatry of our God to blah blah blah, whatever. Make it old, Bible thumping horror, whatever. That's fun. But they don't do that, so it's just like, oh, you can't eat eggs. You have the Benedict on the menu.
The diner.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't go to the diner and don't be like, I got an eggs Benedict without the eggs. It's like that doesn't feel satisfying. It doesn't come back around. I will say too, I just wanted to say this while it's on my mind, is also I think you themed this thing as well to make it like harder to leave. Him continuously being like, all right, I'm leaving. This is crazy. I can't leave this new property. Sure, whatever. I think if it was in the dead of winter and you're snowed in,
snowed-in's a good
one. It's like a much colder environment. It's gonna be a lot harder to leave a town when it's like, I physically cannot drive out of the town.
Snowed in,
and then you could have town members being like, I really wouldn't drive up there. You have all these elements too of him being like windy roads. It's like it'd be unrealistic. There's no way.
What happens? And this is a lesson to anyone out there who wants to write. Not that I'm a professional writer, but I dabble. Like, what happens when you make an answer two-dimensional? Like, why do you want to stay at the house? Because I want to stay at the house. When you do something like that, you tie your hands for the rest of the story, right? Because then you have to have scenarios like, okay, well, Greg needs to come back to the house later in the story. So I want to stay. I'm going to go stay at a motel. I actually want to stay, so I'm going to drive back now. Oh, look, my car's stuck. Rather than if you, like what Hunter suggested, you could have it be he's snowed in and like his car gets stuck in the ice, so he has to begrudgingly
There
return
needs to
home.
be elements.
What
There needs to be elements out of your control.
what I would do if I was writing this story, I would have his grandfather be like, the house is willed to him, but his grandfather's like bedside, like he's comatose almost in the house.
Dude,
and
way creepier.
and now the son's
Creepy old
there,
man.
and so he can't leave because his grandfather's there, but the grandfather can't speak unless later in the story it becomes convenient for him to. Then you have the whole cavalcade of, you have your book of information delivered right there at the bedside. Then you could keep the eyeless woman as more of a mysterious figure later into the plot, and have
As an
his
entity-
suddenly lucid grandfather talking about the new moon. You can have, you give yourself options when you don't just make it, well, I feel like I need to stay because I feel like I need to stay. Yeah.
Creepy grandpa on his deathbed is like, or he's like dying, and he's just like, maybe he's resentful, or he feels guilt about the things that he did or something like that. He's walking around aimlessly. Greg could wake up and be like, yeah, my grandpa is just standing in my room looking at me.
Yep.
All
And then,
these different
then
things
you could
of,
have scenes where, like, the eyeless woman, you could have grandpa be like, I talked to her today, or something like that, right?
she's
like,
not supposed to be here.
yeah,
She's
stuff
never
like
supposed
that.
to be here.
Like, it's, and then you don't have to do stuff like, it was fine in the story, like it was a creepy moment, the whole, is someone watching you sleep right now? But then you don't have to use dream conversations to lure back in to get, you could just have like the old man be kind of the delivery for that stuff. You could do a lot of really cool stuff with it. What?
This is the first time we get Isaiah hater mode, dude.
No, I'm not,
Mark it
okay,
down
hold
in
on. No,
mark it down in your calendars,
don't
dude.
wish that on me. Don't wish that on me. I'm not hating. It's because this is so good of a setup that I'm jealous. For one, I'm jealous I didn't come up with it, for one. But two, I'm upset that it's like you were right there. You were rounding second base and you tripped, right? Like,
the entire setup is amazing. The early videos and the photos of like the woman standing there, she looks at him all creepy, done extremely effectively. It takes a cornballish look on the eyeball thing, which obviously pays out with like, oh, they're eating the eyeballs, but
they're
it's
eating
like,
the eyes, yeah. Yeah, why was the eye there uneaten? What did that have to do?
What? So I mean, it's like, so.
And it wasn't
like,
the new moon.
I ripped the eye out, but I'm just gonna leave it.
Yeah.
Never.
Apparently these eye-eating chicken things don't actually need to eat them that bad if they're willing to just throw them out. And also, like, okay, most stories like this would keep it to a purely paranormal angle. They would, or supernatural, I should say. They would have it that the cult worshipped the devil, or they worshipped a ghost, an entity in the lake, like the Lady of the Lake or whatever, right? You could have something like that. I'm not saying it has to be that. As a matter of fact, I think it's kind of cool if it's a physical monster or like a race of monsters. I think that's a neat touch, right? If played differently, you could have the town worship like the things in the lake, like these lizard people things or whatever. That could be a lot of fun. Yeah. But when your execution of it is giant eggs, like, just don't show the eggs. Just say there's
brutal.
Say, okay, look, here's your change for that. When they hatch, they crawl out of the water to get food. They kill, and then they go back to the water. So then you could play with footsteps around the shores of the lake. You could have...
Does it make sense that creatures from a lake that live underwater lay their eggs on land for them to crawl back in the... Does that make sense?
It's like the sea turtle thing. You know how sea turtles do that?
But it's like, so. But let me say this too. If you introduce
giant sea turtles,
giant eggs into your story, and you have photos of it, you better have a good explanation for it. It's all I got to say. That is a ballsy. It's ballsy thing to put in a story.
It is a thing to throw out there to be like, I got eggs.
Crisp porcelain white eggs.
And you know what? If he executed well on it, I would have been like, insane.
Oh my God. I would have been like, how do you make eggs come full circle in this way? And if it was satisfying, it would have been amazing.
And
it doesn't really.
I've given some theories to how you could, like, maybe you take away some of the supernatural aspect and it's more animalistic. It's more like giant dinosaurs or whatever. And the only reason there's this cult development around them is because his grandfather pushed a cult mindset onto the people, and maybe that's why they still serve him. Maybe you don't need to do a ritual at all. Maybe the dinosaurs don't give people supernatural abilities. Maybe it's just this broken conviction members of this town have. Maybe you could do something like that, and then you could, like I said, tie in like eggs, like eating eggs or whatever, as goofy as it is, was seen as like a form of hypocrisy or heresy or what have you. Like, you could do fun stuff with it, but as it stands, it's like, yeah, so anyway, this giant super smart ghost thing, it lays eggs, and then the eggs eat twins' eyes.
Also, you can't
What do you mean they start with the eyes? They eat people. Why do you need to start with eyes? You can just...
What's that say? There's so many vision, like, where it's like, so they just mindlessly eat eyes and then they go in the water, like.
And if the whole thing with them, okay, maybe I am getting Isaiah hater mode now. If the whole thing with them is that the only reason this whole transaction goes through of like townspeople get old and live a long life because they feed their children to it, how does things like the eyeless woman getting away happen? What, they don't go grab her and bring her back? Because her getting away endangers their whole cult practice by sacrificing children to it, and they just let her live in the woods now. She spent like the past 20 years as a blind child in the woods with no supernatural abilities. It's just a blind woman.
I have to reiterate this, dude, because I know I got some hate last time when we were talking about the Russian.
Well, don't worry, I'll get the hate this time. Yeah.
We're getting the hate. We're gonna get some hate this time, but I'm just saying that it's just because it kind of feels that the story here was that it seems like Greg was just like, I'm getting bored of writing this. I'm just gonna end it. Is how
I think what happened.
You have so much fun set up. It sets up so fun. I was like so hooked, dude. I got so hooked in.
Deepwater Chapel had me by the neck.
And then,
yeah,
dude, exactly. And then you introduce the eggs, and I'm like, that's when I was like, you better have something.
It's because we're getting in, and it didn't deliver.
Because you can't have the eggs, dude. You have the eggs,
and
then
you have
a red.
You cannot have.
You
the
have
eggs.
the red blur cross the road.
Yeah.
After that, to where you have the literal chicken cross the road message. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you don't have a follow up. How does that happen?
You know what? Okay, there's two options here. Option one is Greg is probably someone who writes elsewhere. Right? We keep saying Greg. That's probably not their real name. But
yeah,
whoever...
I cannot find the name of the person,
whoever,
so I apologize.
Whoever the author is probably writes elsewhere. So the Gregory 88 was like, oh, let me do a fun little Twitter ARG. So it was something they were kind of doing off the dome, you know? And then I think they wrote themselves into a corner, right? Like they get near the end and they're like, they were asking themselves a lot of the questions we were. Like, well, what does the thing look like? What does it do? What?
Isaiah.
What?
Dude, Greg's follows on Twitter is the fucking writing cast for Big Mouth. look at his... What is happening, dude? He follows Nick Kroll, Paul Scheer, and John Mulaney. What is going on? Oh my god. Was this Twitter ARG written by a Big Mouth writer?
There's no way.
Oh my god. Oh god.
This is John Mulaney.
Oh god. Oh my god.
There's no way.
I'm done. I'm done with this.
Did we just get trolled super hard?
This is, I can't tell if I just got trolled or what's going on, but this, we have to, I'm going to let the listeners and the listeners and the viewers figure this one out on their own, but I am mentally tapped. I don't even know what else to
okay,
say.
hold on. Let me propose one more theory about the author.
Sure.
If it's not a Big Mouth writer, or someone who wrote somewhere else, they were just passively writing, making it, and then I think they wrote themselves into a corner of like, okay, well, he wants to stay because I didn't really give him a reason to, and the eyeless lady's there, but I didn't really give a reason for that. So they're like, okay, I'm ending it. One series of tweets, we're done, right? Or, here's my other theory that I thought about while we're reading this. Do you know what this whole thing sounds like to me?
What?
This sounds like a college writing project.
Oh, it could be like an assignment.
Yes, I hear a ton because it takes place over the course of a winter break, right? Well, not quite. It starts a bit earlier. Could have told him to start earlier, but it pretty much takes place over over the course of winter break, right? So like from 2018 to 2019, I hear a bunch of college assignments. People will tag me in them sometimes and be like, "Hey, I made this Twitter thread for university. I'm taking a writing class, and we had to do a story using Twitter, or we had to do a story using like Instagram or whatever, right? Like they'll incorporate social media into assignments.
Yeah.
And the setup of, oh, I'm a grad student, my grandfather has a house. It sounds like they came up with the basic premise, they did some stuff, and then, oh, the assignment's almost done, I better wrap it up now. That's what it kind of feels like to me.
I could see that. I mean, I could see that. The thing, too, is I don't know if I agree with writing in a corner because you set up so many angles. It's like you're
well,
like,
I mean, they wrote themselves into a corner right before the last post, like when they added the all the different stuff. Yeah. Early on, there's a lot of opportunity.
I'm saying that your theory of it being an assignment makes a lot more sense. Where it's like, oh, it's a deadline, so it just got to be done.
Yes,
because everything else is they set up a lot of great things in it.
I agree.
You know,
yeah.
So I don't know. I think that like they had all the actions and all the avenues, and it seemed like they had enough traction and people were excited about it to where you could write this thing in so many different doses of like, oh, I do updates every 3 days, I do updates every month or something like that. Because here's the thing too, is you can't leave it on like, all right, I'll be back. I'm going to come back and I will see if I can defeat the giant chicken or puberty monster that's plaguing
the puberty monster.
And then never touch it again. It's like you would have to end it in a way where it's just like, oh, kind of like what story did we read where it was kind of like, I'm going back, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna see what I can do. I think that was Stairs, right? Where it was like, hey, this is my post. I'm gonna go see what I can do. I'll let you know what happens when I get back.
Did Stairs end that way? Because there's more parts to Stairs.
I'm trying to remember what story we read that. I'm trying to remember which one we read.
There's more sections to Stairs besides what we read that was like made later and stuff.
That's true. So
it may have ended that way.
Ending in a way where it's like, hey, I tried doing something, I'll let you know what happens, and then you don't post to where it's like, oh, Ted the Caver. That's what I was thinking of. Ted the Caver. He's like, hey,
I'm
going back in. I'll
really,
let you know
if you think about it, Ted the Caver was the first Creepcast episode before it was Creepcast, so that's fun. But yeah.
So I think like that is how I see like that's maybe a way you can end it, but you can't like just have the story where it's like, by the way, I had it on Zillow, I took it off Zillow. I'm not going to sell it. And it's just that kind of thing. I don't know.
You know what?
I'm curious to hear what people have to say.
You know what? I'll be this pretentious. I'll be this awful about it. I think January the 5th, 2019. They were about to go to school the next day or the next couple days. It was that weekend. He makes the thread, turns in the assignment, then he gets on the account and makes the 8 tweets that are like, I may update this later. Bye. Like that's my call. I think it was an assignment of some kind. That's why I did it so quick. That's why it hasn't been picked up since then. Which for a college assignment or for an early writer, this is fun. It's got great bones. I think there's a lot more you could do with it. I think if this is a first draft of a story, excellent. Great. I just wish that maybe it spent a little bit more time in the writer's room, so to speak, because there's so much good potential. Whoever wrote this has great gibbs as a writer, has great stuff to go forward with, and I think they can adapt a lot of these ideas into something really impressive.
Yeah.
Again, the only reason I have any frustration with this is because it's so cool. Because I mean,
like, we can reiterate that all day of like, we're not saying that it's like poorly. We're just saying that it had all the opportunity to do something really crazy and cool, and it just like felt like you pulled the rug out from underneath it too fast. So it's a fun one.
I will also add, unless this was written by Nick Kroll, in which case you got me.
I mean, dude, if it's the biggest big mouth troll on earth and we're just like reading into something that they did for an episode, I'm gonna feel like such a fucking dumbass. I don't even know what to do with myself.
Well, it was 2018, 2019. I don't think so. I will say this though: go to the account and see what their one like tweet is. I feel like this is a good ending for you.
So it's Alexandra on 1/6/19, which was before the story was done. Gregory, oh my God. Is she a twin? Does she used to live in the house? Maybe she's your mom's sister. There you go.
I think you're right.
So
I think that's passive confirmation that you were right. Yeah.
I feel like I feel like it was an obvious thing where I feel like if it would have been given more time and stuff, I think it would have been a really fun reveal. I think having her just clumsily kind of show up, and I will be critiquing in this way too. I think just having her show up and be like, "Let me tell you what happened," and he's like, "Okay, guys, I'm gonna talk to this crazy woman who's been leaving Blair Witch style stuff outside my house. I'll be back.
Okay.
Yeah. Guys, I'm back. Here's what she said.
I got the lore dump. Yeah, I got the lore dump. So. I think you know what? I want this to happen. I want Gregory 88 to come back. I want to see the story adapted, more of like the grandfather aspects, more of the town aspects. I think it could be fun. But because I really like the ideas. But yeah, I think there were definitely mistakes made, but it wasn't ruined. Like, the story's not broken or anything.
Dude,
I would like to see it. Yeah, I had fun reading it. It was a good time.
At the end of the day,
I'd like to see it come back.
At the end of the day, I had fun reading it. Like I said, I know I've said it a billion times. I'm curious to hear what people say, like what people think of it. And just because there's so many people, the people who listen to this show and who comment on like YouTube and stuff, some of the things, the theories they have are so fun to read that I'm like, it always adds a whole new level to the story experience. So we're going to leave it in your hands. And once again, this has been Gregory 88's first Twitter ARG. I will say the Twitter ARG, I thought it was fun. I'm stoked to read more of these. Yeah. It's fun to see it in these little bite-sized kind of ways of having to keep in mind of like Twitter's word count cap and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. I'm stoked to go into it as well. And I'm curious to see if there's any other Twitter ARGs our beautiful listeners and viewers have for us. So be sure to leave it down below. And as always, we'll have to throw this at the beginning as well, but be sure to check us out on audio platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcast, all that stuff. It really helps us out. And be sure to go there, give us a nice rating, all that kind of stuff. We appreciate it. And Isaiah, anything else?
I had a great time, enjoyed it. I will say that at the time this episode goes up, I think there's like 8 hours left or something close to that to get my Wendigoon t-shirt here and Wendigoon beanie.
Which I love that shirt, dude. The Cryptid Tour.
That's very kind.
It's so fun.
I'll get you and your wife one then. I appreciate that. But yeah,
don't get her anything. I just want it for myself.
All right, I'll get you two then. How's that sound?
There you go. And a size that's far too small for me that she could definitely fit in.
Yeah, you're getting a XS for sure.
Yeah. And someday we'll have to have some nice CreepCast merch. I think we're just waiting a bit till we get into that and before we start doing that. But yeah, like I said, be sure to go check out the shop on. Is it just Wendigoon.com?
It's Wendigoon.
Or the Wendigoon shop.
Wendigoon.shop. So
Wendigoon.shop.
Yeah, it's going to be available for like 12 hours after this is up. So if you missed it, you missed it. But if you want to get it on it, get it while you can. Other than that, be sure to go follow Gregory88. The E is spelled with a 3. Follow Gregory88 on Twitter in case the story ever starts up. I'd really love to see it do that. But other than that, I think that's all I got. Thank you all for watching.
Very good. Thank you all so much for watching or listening from wherever you are. We appreciate you, and stay spooked.
See y'all later. Bye. I continue upstairs through the bedrooms, closets, and everywhere a person could be. I checked. I worked my way back downstairs and checked the basement. It's a pretty small basement, but it's broken into several tiny rooms. One room has a metal door with a padlock on it. The padlock needs a key to open it and is completely rusted shut, covered in cobwebs, and even one big old black spider was guarding that lock, having made its home. Clearly, this lock has been there for years, maybe decades. I didn't worry much about it since there's no way anyone was in there due to how rusted this old lock was. Even the keyhole looked corroded and filled with rust and dirt. I eventually left and advised dispatch no report. I grab a cup of hot coffee around 4 a.m. and catch up with one of the guys from the DUI crash and ask him what the mess of a scene looked like. He told me I'm lucky I wasn't stuck on that scene. He asked me about the Patch Lane house, and I told him it was pretty creepy, but I checked it out, and it has to be crossed wire somewhere. I felt comfortable telling him it was creepy since I knew this guy from when my dad was still on the force, and he treats me like a daughter. He said he used to get dropped calls all the time from there back in the 90s, but there was actually a family living there back then. Each time he got dispatched, they were surprised to see him, and they let him search the whole house. Never any problems. Just a single mom with her 2 kids minding their own business. I asked him what happened to that family, and he said nothing suspicious. They moved away after maybe 10 months or so, definitely less than a year, and a few families moved in and out renting the house, but ever since about the late 90s, nobody moved in. I asked him if he remembered there being a locked room in the basement, honestly not really knowing what it was. Honestly,
Sir?
not really know. Sorry. I don't know. This is so hard for me. Honestly, sorry, they almost won that time. Honestly, not really knowing what I was expecting as a response, and his eyebrows raised, and he said,
You know what? I actually didn't remember until you just asked now. Yeah. Wow. And the only reason I remember is because the nice girl that lived there with their kids didn't have a key and couldn't get into the room, and was asking me if I knew a local locksmith, but I told her I didn't really know anyone, since any time the cops need in somewhere, we just smash the lock open. She giggled, and I remember she was a very attractive looking girl.
that voice was actually too good that I was expecting you to launch into a bit at some point, but you never did. That was just
Thank you.
well
Did
done.
you see? That's what I wanted a little bit of time. I think I delivered. I think I got you. I think I hooked you a little, didn't I?
I think you did. I think you did a really good job. The only time you try that hard is when it's going somewhere, when you have like a joke lined up, but you didn't.
No.
It's not so far, at least. So we both shrugged it off, finding it odd, but moved on with our shift into the early hours with another DUI stop and a domestic violence call from a guy whose wife drank too much and decided it was a good time to confront him for cheating on her 3 years ago.
God damn. Good God. God. We gotta keep overshadowing this horrifying DUI accident that happened. Good fucking
well, they
God.
mentioned there was a DUI fatality.
Yeah.
And then there's another DUI stop and then a domestic violence scenario. So a lot happened. I mean, like, most people I know who are police, like, this tends to be the vibe. It's like, yeah, well, yesterday we had a couple domestics. This guy kept trying to beat his wife to death. It's like, okay.
we haven't commented on it. I'm just, from a police standpoint, you'd have to see so much shit or hear about so much crazy shit every day, you know, that it's all normalized.
Water off a duck's back at some point.
Yeah.
Fast forward to Sunday night. Back at work, and this time the call comes out right at 0300.
Dispatch to 1034. 1034 to go ahead. Hey, we have another 911 hang up from Patch Lane. Are you able to go?
Since I was in the middle of eating my lunch, I decided not to even go.
Yeah, dispatch. I cleared the house last night. I didn't even see a landline telephone in the house. Stand by, 1034, to Sergeant Oakley. Oakley, go ahead. Hey, Sarge, did you hear this call? Do you need me to go, or can we clear it? 1034, just drive by. No need to go in if you don't see anything, but at least drive by. Received. Show me en route.
I was pissed since I didn't get to finish eating, but I did my job and drove down the gravel road. This time, the front door was wide open, and I know I shut it closed the night before. At this point, I began to think a homeless person's inside, which is still trespass. So I call it dispatch, I have an open door, and I'm going to check it out.
Homeless people scare the shit out of me, dude. The idea of a homeless person being in a vacant house.
You are all over the place. Your political compass right now is like a star.
What?
It's like
They
everywhere
do.
on the board.
They freak me out. They do. You ever look at anytime I drive by, which I don't know if you feel the same, anytime I drive by a house that's abandoned, I'm like, I bet you anything there's just a litter of homeless men in there doing God knows what. But I'm like, it's like,
You have pissed everyone off this episode.
What?
Like every demographic.
What did I do wrong?
Because they're homeless people. They're not animals. It's like there's someone who does not currently have a home. Now, I'll give you that there's like people who are high on something and maybe you don't know what, but they seem unstable. That's scary, right?
No.
But that's more so just anyone on like heavy drugs.
I'm not saying I'm afraid of homeless people. I'm saying that I am saying that when I look at a house and you're like, oh, it's vacant, there shouldn't be anyone in there. And the idea that there is like a homeless guy in there freaks me out.
We had my grandfather, he used to live in this really big house over in East Tennessee. And after he went through a divorce, he just quit taking care of it. And he started living in a double wide on the property of the big, like, fancy house. And he didn't touch that house for like 20 years. So my dad and I go in there to clean it up. Or like see if we were trying to see if the house was salvageable because like the roof had fallen in and stuff like that. And we go inside and someone had been living in there. God. And like, keep in mind, the house is not like a closed off house. Like all the windows are broken. There's like vines growing up the wall and stuff. And we go in there and there's like a homemade cot that was laid out and then like some empty cans of food and stuff like that. And it looked recent. But here's what's weird about it. This isn't a property that's in like the middle of a town where it's like, oh, he walked down the street. Probably. This is, there is one gas station, but like, everyone who's at the gas station. Other than that, it is trees and dirt roads for at least 8 miles.
That's what I'm saying, dude. I'm saying.
So it's like, where is he? If he's not here right now, where'd he go?
That's what I'm saying. It's like fucking homeless people walking around the fucking woods making Minecraft zombie sounds. You know what I mean? Going into your house and then they have a cot. How do they bring the cot up there? They got a cot and fucking canned beans. Well, and that's the same thing with the story though. She's like, oh, I drove down the gravel road. So it's the same idea. It's like, what, a homeless guy? He's just like, I'm going to walk down this road and just see where it leads me today. I doubt it, dude. I don't fucking trust him.
So here's the thing about this house, right? Because now I'm talking about more of my trauma that's being unveiled.
Sure.
I was maybe like 9 at the time, 9 or 10. And we set all of that stuff that we found inside of the house, we set it outside. We didn't throw it away. It's just like, hey, we're trying to redo the house. Like, here's your stuff. Come get it. So the next day, and we were sleeping in the double wide that like was in line of sight of the house.
Oh yeah, they probably came out like fucking possums and grabbed it, didn't they?
We go to sleep that night. We wake up the next morning and everything had been moved back into the house.
My God.
So now here's the thing. We were like, it was in such a way they either had to come from the road or the double wide we were staying at. So the other alternative is, were they in the house while I was in there?
Oh, dude, I bet you they were.
In the closet or the basement or just being real quiet while we were moving. Can you imagine? I think about that sometimes.
Can you imagine, like, you're like walking around, you're like, oh, yeah, man, this is going to be, I don't know. You're like talking to your dad, like, oh, this house looks too, like, you're just casual conversation. No, it's too renovated, blah, blah. And then you walk by and then like the closet you didn't open, that's where the guy was standing.
It's weird you mentioned that, because I used to have these nightmares about that house because there were so many ghost stories.
Isaiah, do not tell me that you do not fucking trauma dump me right now.
Listen, I used to have so many nightmares about that house. I would have dreams about like there was a monster in it or like it was on fire, stuff like, because it was just a creepy house, right? Because it was, old, decrepit. It was built like in the early 1900s, so it looked like an old like plantation style house or whatever, but it was like overgrown and stuff. So I used to have nightmares about it, and I would have this one nightmare where there was a face looking at me from like the top of the stairs.
Oh my God.
Like where the banister was, there'd be someone looking down. I had that dream a lot, and it's almost so vivid. I wonder if it's like a memory.
How old were you? Well, how old were you when you went into the house with your dad?
Like 9 or 10.
Dude, oh my God, Isaiah, you saw a fucking 50-year-old homeless guy looking at you. He probably did too. He probably put his fucking gross ass finger up to his lips. He did. Shh. Like, like Sleepy Hollow or some shit.
He might have, because honestly, I don't remember
say
that much.
Nothing. You called him the can man because he had like a bunch of fucking canned beans rattling around. The can man keeps looking at me. And your dad's like, shut up! Come on! We gotta go meet Grandpa on the double wide. It's like the can man treats me nicer than Grandpa or Dad ever did.
I mean, if it was the can man, he was quite nice to me. Like I
know. I bet he was. You know why? Because every day you'd fucking paw around your grandpa's double wide trailer for some can of Heinz beans. Can man. You had a spoon. You'd hit the side of it. Can man. You hear him rustle around.
The can man is certainly a great Creepcast character to relay off my possible childhood trauma. Look, here's what I have to say. Here's what I think. If it is a repressed memory, I hope it stays repressed. I hope I never. I hope I never dig that one up.
I have a
haunting feeling that you were going to get a visit from the can man in your dreams tonight, dude.
I
have a
not.
feeling
If I do,
you opened up a
you'll be the
Rolodex
first to
in your
know.
brain.
I hope. I actually haven't thought about that in a long time until we
Isaiah?
started reading about the house. And as she's describing like the open door, I'm thinking like, oh, that's kind of familiar. And now it's
There's
like,
a man
yeah.
standing there with a string of cans attached to his belt. Isaiah, come on inside. I like to imagine that the can man was actually very kind. You can do anything you want with your life. He's just stuffing his face. That's good.
He was very, yeah, he was just like a friendly old guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's a much more pleasant outcome than what the
I didn't want to go
reality
down the.
yeah, I know. Because we decided that the house was too far gone. Because it was like too damaged. It cost more to repair it than, it would be to just get a new place, right? So we went back years later because it had, what was that wood called? Wormy chestnut. It's like a older, like vintage wood that some of the floorboards were made of. And we're like, oh, well, maybe we could salvage it and sell it because it's apparently worth a penny. So we go back to look at the house again. And like the cot was still there, I remember.
Oh my God.
But Dad was like, no one's been here for a while. But I think you may have just been lying to me.
He's 100% lying. You know why? Probably because I bet you if anything, if I met your parents, the first thing they'd say is, yeah, it was weird back then is when Isaiah was seeing the can man, he kept coming into our room late at night and he had bush beans all over his lips and shirt. We kept saying, Isaiah, what the hell are you doing with all these bush beans on your shirt? The can man shared it with me. I'm sharing it with the can man.
I like the idea that there was like a creepy old man who lived in the house outside, and the worst thing he ever did was sneak me beans to share with him as he told me stories
If you
around
come bring
the
me
campfire.
beans, we can eat it together.
Yeah.
It's like a weird haggling thing. I'm spending $70 a week on bush beans for Christ's sakes, Isaiah.
I do vividly remember finding a dead cat in the house.
Isaiah, this is not the time or place
to
keep unveiling.
I'm like,
you need to talk to a therapist immediately.
I remember
because
I'd never seen like a pet-sized animal dead, or like an animal that could be a pet dead.
What's weird is that
I remember
the dead
what
cat
it looked
was the
like.
shape of a human, and it was under a rag.
Yeah,
it's under a blanket.
That's what that smell was. That's why it was
Weird.
so
It smelled like
familiar.
it looked like a cat at first, but then a man drug it upstairs. I don't know what happened to it.
During the time she was home that year, she worked even more intensely than usual. And that's saying a lot. She earned a physics PhD from Caltech in just 3 years. I don't think she worked fewer than 12 hours a day even once during those 3 years. I was happy she was home, but she was so focused on a lab-related problem that it was more like having a cardboard cutout of my daughter visiting me than an actual person. For nearly a week, all my attempts to start a conversation failed. She'd respond with one-syllable answers to my questions and immediately curl back around her notebook. Finally, I asked her what she was working on. She stared at me, blinking for a minute. Her mind slowly descended from the world of high energy physics to the world of normal human interaction.
Oh, sure.
She handed me her notebook, a hardcover journal with the word record stenciled on the front. Or record, I should say, stenciled on the front. I opened the book to the page she had been writing on. The only way I can describe what I saw there was that it was satanic. A pentagram, an upside-down star inscribed in a circle, filled half the page. The rest was filled with intricately drawn symbols. Strange curving shapes drawn from an alphabet I had never seen. Decorative lines linked the constellations of symbols. Lines with loops, curves with arrows, arcs with circles and triangles drawn on top of them.
Helen, what is this?
Dad, it's math.
It looks like you're, I don't know, worshiping the devil.
The devil, really?
She started laughing. It was the first time I heard her laugh since she arrived 5 days earlier.
Lucifer, the Lord of Lies, or is it flies? One of those.
I'm not trying to be like, I don't know, Tipper Gore. I'm just saying it looks a little wacko.
She laughed so hard she fell out of the chair. She finally recovered and climbed back into it.
It's a problem for work. I'm trying to design a thermal stabilization system. These devil words, or whatever you think they are, they're just stochastic tensors. The whole thing is just a huge stochastic differential equational problem. God, I'm too fucking stupid to read this shit. What about this demon summoning thing, the pentagram?
She turned off the hilarity.
Now that's interesting. When you do the math, as I've clearly done here, it turns out a star inside of a circle is the epitome shape of Jesus Christ. Inside a circle is the optimum shape of the thermal elements we need to stabilize the...
She cut herself off, paused, and chose her next words carefully.
To stabilize the thing that needs stabilizing.
That's an interesting idea, that demonic images pop up in, because that's the kind of the joke about circuit boards, right? That the circuitry outlining looks like old demonic and angel sigils, like their names printed. So like technology rots forth these forgotten like names and ideas of, you know, spirituality and stuff like that. The way demons can speak without speaking, so to speak. That it's just a fun element for like religious horror, and it's cool that kind of pops up here. I'm sure she's expressly demonic and knows she's demonic from what we've seen, but her being like, oh well, coincidentally, an upside down star inside of a circle is the best way to thermal stabilize. So it's like I don't know. It's a fun like loop back of like cultural demonology mixed into like the science and this girl being a demon and stuff like that. It's just, I'm completely sold. I love everything about this so far. I was going to press her. I know she works on classified projects at the lab and isn't free to say much about them, but I thought I could tease out a little more information about what she was actually doing with her life. But then she changed the topic to the subject I've been dreading since the terrible and wonderful night that she was born.
Dad, when you adopted me, do you remember if you came across any information about my biological family? Specifically about my biological father?
Oh, Helen.
I flopped onto the couch.
Why do you want to know about your father?
It's not like I want to meet my birth family and try to get all my kumbaya. Believe it or not, I have a professional interest in the subject.
Helen, nobody knows who your father is.
That's what I thought.
Then she dropped the subject. My daughter, who pursues everything she's ever been interested in with a relentless white-hot intensity, simply dropped her questions about her own father. Do you know why? Because she knows her father's the devil. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm curious to see where they're going with this.
I hardly saw or even talked to Helen after that Christmas. Her visits home became infrequent. We would go 6 months or more between phone calls. Then she died.
Damn!
She was working on a project for the Army. Not at Livermore, they said. Somewhere else. There was an accident involving a high-energy experiment. She was killed along with 12 other scientists. Their bodies were vaporized. There were no remains. Losing a wife and a daughter is too much for one lifetime. I couldn't work after that. I had to retire. I grieved. I tried to kill myself.
God damn.
I spent 3 weeks. I spent 3 weeks in an institution. I somehow inched my way back up to something that looks like a functional person. Then the mail started showing up. The Army apparently never stopped sending her paychecks. 6 months after Helen died, a rubber band bound bundle of pay stubs with her name but my address arrived in my mailbox. W-2 forms showed up next. Paperwork for benefits enrollment. Retirement account statements showing ongoing contributions. The paperwork that modern life produces kept coming. I called her HR office dozens of times. Their answer was always the same.
We're sorry for the confusion. We'll look into it.
Then an envelope from a company named Parental DNA Analysis appeared in my mailbox. It was addressed to Helen. I tore it open while standing in the driveway. It contained the results of a paternity test.
Ooh.
Child, Helen Kaizen. Father, hair sample supplied by client. Probability of paternity, 99.9 repeating percent. Somehow, before she died, Helen found her father. She had found the person whose DNA entered her mother's embryo and, contrary to everything known about human development, produced a child. Or she had at least produced a hair sample from the man who contributed half her genome. Interesting. So I would say, we have a break there. If I would guess, in these high energy experiments that require setting up a pentagram and stuff like that, she did like a demon summoning ritual, right?
Yeah, that's what I was assuming as well. Yeah.
Yeah, she got hair from the devil. Yeah, that goes so hard. I saw Helen. She's changed. I was returning from running errands when she arrived at my house. I knew something was happening when I turned into my neighborhood. The streets were full of dogs. What looked to be every neighborhood dog, Labradors, Chihuahuas, and everything in between were running around like crazy. They were barking, growling, crying, jumping, and nipping at the air. Their owners were futilely running after them. I pulled into my driveway. There was a package next to the door. It was addressed to Helen. I lugged the heavy cardboard box into the living room. The package was only the size of a banker's box, but it was as heavy as a box of rocks. I sighed. Why was Helen's death nearly as strange as her birth? I wondered what I would be doing at that moment if the aneurysm hadn't taken my wife 2 decades earlier. Would I be happier? I opened the box. Inside was a steel case. The kind of case you'd use to ship something expensive and fragile. A post-it was stuck to the top of the steel case. On it, someone had written,
Dad, open this ASAP.
I pulled the steel case out of the cardboard shipping box and thunked it down in the dining room table. I undid the heavy-duty latches and opened it. Inside was a tablet computer. Underneath that was a hard plastic case. Another post-it note was stuck to the tablet screen.
Turn me on.
I did. It booted into a heavily customized version of the regular operating system and automatically started a messaging app. I typed a message.
Hello?
I waited a minute, another minute. Someone finally typed a response.
Dad, what is my mother's name? It's crazy.
I started to cry. This was probably a joke or a crazily complicated scam, but the thought that maybe I was messaging Helen was too irresistible. I never saw her body. Her paychecks keep showing up in my mailbox. Why couldn't I be talking to her?
Helen, where are you?
Another long pause.
Dad, I know who my father is. I met him. I need to find my mother. I know how I was born. I know you know who my mother is. Tell me her name and I'll tell you where I am.
Does that not feel like a trick from the devil or something like that?
It does.
It's like,
it does. Well, I imagine,
you know what I mean? Like, I do not believe that's her. I guess what I'm saying. Like, that's my gut reaction. If it is her,
well, I'd say it could be her because I think she's been a demon or like, what's the name of the kid from the Omen? Damien. I feel like she could be like an Antichrist figure or something like that. And now she's communicating through hell, effectively.
Right.
I truly didn't know her mother's name. The infant I performed the cesarean section on was less than half an hour old when I operated. She hadn't even been given a name yet.
I don't know your mother's name, Helen. But I know your grandmother's name.
Then I typed in the name of the woman who said my daughter was just excess tissue. A minute passed, then 5. Was Helen gone?
Open the smaller case. Turn the camera on.
I pulled the black plastic case out of the steel box and opened it. Inside was a video camera nestled in a custom-cut foam insert. A sticker on the camera said, LL FLIR calibrated. And the date less than 2 weeks earlier. It was an infrared camera from Lawrence Livermore. I found the power switch and waited for it to come to life. I typed into the tablet.
It's on.
I stared at the screen without blinking. She finally wrote.
I'm in the backyard.
I ran through the kitchen and flung open the back door. The yard was empty. I collapsed on the threshold and wept. Whoever I'd been messaging to was not Helen. It was a joke. I heard her growl. The beagle who lived next door was standing by my backyard gate. The dog bared its teeth and snarled at my empty backyard. The dog thought something was there. Whoever I was messaging on the tablet said they were in my backyard. I'm slow sometimes. I realized the camera in my hand was there for a reason. I lifted the camera and scanned it across the yard. Something was there. Something huge. Rendered in the infrared camera's garish shades of yellow, pink, and red, was standing directly in front of me. It was too close and too big to see all at once through the camera's narrow field of view. This is so cool. I started by aiming the camera at the grass. I saw 4 huge feet with long, 5 jointed toes protruding at odd angles. It was hard to get a sense of their size on the infrared, but my guess was that each foot was the size of a yoga ball.
Wow.
I ran inside the house and slammed the door. Bro, let's go. It's described as almost like the Leviathan of Revelation, like the 7-headed beast with the wings and the head of a lion. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. I caught my breath and peered out the back window. To my naked eye, the backyard was still empty. I aimed the camera out the window. The same feet were visible in the infrared spectrum. So not to be pedantic, because I know the author doesn't know this and I know he's trying. But infrared cameras cannot see through glass. Just so you know.
What if it's a demonic one, though, that Helen gave him?
Well, I thought it says it's from the laboratory. I thought the idea is you can only pick up infrared signals. It's like it's on the visible spectrum.
What if it's a demonic lab camera?
Well, no, because the way infrared works is it picks up heat signatures, right? So if there's a window in the way, it's just blacked out.
But what if it's demonic heat signatures, Isaiah?
You know what? You're right. Maybe there's a perfect imprint of the world and the thing on the window from heat. Sure, Hunter.
Okay, there we go. Well, just making sure.
Of course, our first thought was that the father did it. We checked it out, but he didn't have any kind of motive. No leads to follow up on. Same with mom. Surviving family checked out clean too. Father had a few clients who might have had motive, but the means weren't there. He was a divorce lawyer, but not for anybody who could have taken out an entire family without leaving evidence. There's a chemistry teacher who lived 3 blocks away, and we investigated him for a while because of the canisters, but he alibied out, so clean there. Same with the dentist who lived nearby. The wife had an online flirtation with some kid out in England, but nothing adulterous, and he wasn't even in the country at the time of the murder, so that's out. We settled unhappily on the idea of a random killing. Hardest pieces of shit to catch when there's no pattern like that. You know, it's just one and done. We must have sunk tens of thousands of man hours into this case, chasing down leads. But yeah, nothing ever came of any of it. We did track down the canisters. They were stolen from a laboratory about 10 miles away. There was no security footage. We couldn't find any leads on the thief. And after 6 months with no repeat attacks, the investigation went cold. So the Driscolls had been knocked out and abducted. Like I said, no one ever found the bodies. Who was to say they hadn't just, run off? Until, I'd rather only talk about that once.
What can you tell us about how the confession wound up with Miss Bonner?
Well, she'd been following the case for some years, both personally and as a reporter. Like I said, it captured the imagination of a whole lot of people. Even seemingly normal folks thought it could have been aliens, ghosts, demons, or, whatever. Miss Bomber published a retrospective on the murders, given the 20-year anniversary. It caused a sort of renewed interest, which happened from time to time. As usual, I declined to comment, citing, lack of new evidence. What did I have to say? I remembered her asking for my quote, though, which is why I accepted the lunch meeting. After publication of the article, Miss Bomber claimed that she had been sent a file. She wished to have me authenticate. The most pertinent part of the file was a confession. I assured Miss Bomber that such false documents are not uncommon, especially in older cases like this, you know, and that I'd personally heard 24 confessions of the Driscoll murders. You know, it kind of just becomes standard fare at some point. But she was insistent. Once I felt she wasn't trying to pull off a hoax or, you know, she wasn't getting off on the idea of talking about a murder, I agreed to the meeting. So she stated that the confession had been mailed to her in the same envelope she showed to me when we met for lunch.
Can you describe its content?
Yeah, old newspaper clippings outlining the progress of my investigation. They seemed appropriately yellowed, so I guess they were, you know, from the trophy book of the perpetrator. There were also 6 photos alleging to be of the individual members of the Driscoll family, as well as several other photos of the facility where they had been taken. Look at that. My hands won't stop shaking. See? I'm trying as hard as I can, and I can't make it happen. I'll have to ask the paramedic for a sedative, I guess, when I'm done with the statement. I don't think I'm gonna sleep otherwise. No, I'm fine. I'm fine for now. I don't want anything to interfere with my recollection. Don't want to mess with the recording and all. I'm fine, but just carrying it around in my head is like sorry, I'll stay focused. Yeah, so the photos were of the Driscoll family, of course. At the time, I didn't know that. The photos had aged poorly, and they could have been of anyone. It was hard to distinguish features. However, given the elaborate nature of the file, I figured it did warrant further look. As to the confession letter, well, it was brief. It gave an address. That's the first thing I noticed. I couldn't locate the address online, which meant it had to be old. The confession letter said, "Stop printing lies. Never killed anyone. Just took a while to get them ready for breakfast." And there was no signature. I just remembered something. Damn it. Yeah, that's right. We got sent a breakfast menu a month after after the disappearance. Someone had drawn a red circle around a picture of pancakes. Yeah, yeah. The letter said, "They're not dead. They're getting ready for breakfast." We put it in the junk lead file. Damn it. Yeah. Getting ready for breakfast.
Detective Milgate, do you need a moment?
My God. I mean, how could I have known, you know? We tried to track down that menu, you know, we could never find out where it come from. So it wasn't any place local, and any of the identifying information we could use to track down where the menu came from had been cut out. So, you know, I don't know. If we did have it, I don't know what else could have been done. I just, God, yeah.
Why did you decide to personally investigate the location mentioned in the letter?
Sorry. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a hoax. I still wasn't convinced. I had 20 years of people sending me fake evidence. I guess maybe the case kind of captured my imagination too, you know? I always figured one day I'd think of something that I'd overlooked and I'd solve the whole thing. But it felt unbelievable to have someone dump the answer in my lap. I needed to see it with my own 2 eyes. So, yeah, Miss Barmer had pinpointed the location with city records, but neither of us was sure if it was still there. So, it was an abandoned industrial building. Last time it had a valid mailing address was 50 years ago. So that tracks on the address from the confession. It might have caved in for all we knew. I think I also wanted to be the one to crack it, you know? Whether or not it was dumped into my lap, that case hung over my head for 20 years. Miss Bomber and I agreed to meet there on the following morning.
Can you describe the crime scene?
Yeah. So, it was an industrial building, as I stated. Approximately 120 feet long, maybe 45 feet wide. It was a wooden structure. And at first, the conditions seemed to match the neighboring buildings. However, I noticed that the facade of it had been recently patched in a few locations. Further investigation also revealed that the entrance to it had been chained and locked. And but my understanding was that it used to be a sheet metal shop. At least I'm sorry, excuse me. Is there a garbage can? I think I'm gonna throw up. Yeah, thank you. Whatever gagging noises, yeah. Yeah, Hunter, could you throw up on demand for me? That'd be appreciated.
That'd be so funny if I was like,
just projectile all over stuff. Thanks, Hunter. Appreciate you. Sorry, I thought I was empty. No, I want to get this done with. Then I'm gonna want that sedative. I could smell something from inside the building. Very faintly. I figured that would count as probable cause. Not that I need it as a civilian, but you never forget the way that a corpse smells, you know? They were bad enough that they had that same smell. Like a corpse, that is. I hadn't forgotten how to pick a lock, so I let myself inside. You know, I really do wish that they had just been corpses. And I like I said earlier, I really do wish that he had been a serial killer. I do. Please say that you believe me.
I do. Can you describe the interior of the building?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm trying to focus through this. I apologize. I'm sorry. I am. It's just that I'd like to go asleep after this for a really long time. Is that paramedic here? Does he have a sedative ready? Okay, thank goodness. Okay, so get through it. The warehouse had not been as abandoned as we were previously led to believe. The interior had a hallway, and in this hallway there was there were 6 rooms. And the construction was old, but visibly newer than the rest of the building, so sort of an addition. The walls between each room had been soundproofed. So there were no windows to the outside or doorways between the rooms themselves. So the only access was through the hallway. None of the rooms could get to each other, see each other, hear each other. I tried to make Miss Bomber leave at that point because, you see, the smell was stronger inside, and you could feel it. The smell. It was like a grit stuck in your nose. It's like feeling, it's like sand, like grits of sand all over your skin. The rooms contained presses, hydraulic presses. They were 4 foot by 8 foot. These like custom presses. I couldn't figure out what they were at first because they were hovering over what looked like hospital beds. So there were IV bags in each room, as well as other medical equipment. That's how he kept them alive for so long, of course. I think I've kind of seen, I think I'm starting to see black spots right now.
Do you need to take a break or?
The idea of having to start this again is worse than the idea of finishing it.
Then please describe your next course of action.
The building was obviously an active crime scene. I had no doubt at this point. I was in the lair of what I believe to be what I thought was a serial killer. I tried to tell Miss Bomber to leave several times. She refused on the grounds that it would not be right to leave me on my own. There wasn't much to make an issue out of it. My opinion of her was that she was a bit nosy, but basically all right. And I didn't think she'd be a liability if she stayed out of my way. So I had to make a judgment call as to whether or not I should proceed on my own, in case the family was somehow, impossibly still alive and perhaps in danger, or if I should leave and call for backup. I told my wife where I was going previously, so I knew my absence would be noted and reported if the worst were to happen. And neither of us could get cell phone reception. I'm sorry, I'm rambling again. It was then that I heard. I mean, really, it wasn't even a gasp. It was like a gasp, but not really, I don't want to describe it any more than that. There was a sound. I'll say that. It drew my attention further on, and I had to act, and that's all that matters. There were some stairs at the very far end of the warehouse, descending to a basement. I told Miss Bomber to remain behind and pulled my service revolver. I had a flashlight on my person as well and turned it on as I descended into the basement. The basement had been hand dug, maybe even over the course of the entire 20-year disappearance, for all I know. I don't know. The floor was dirt, and there was a tunnel that retreated back far enough that it had to be supported with struts at intervals. So yeah, then when my flashlight first illuminated the stack, I wish they'd been dead. I wish he'd been a serial killer.
Please take a moment.
After I recovered, my first thought was, honestly, it was thank God that they're dead. I'm 64 years old, for God's sakes. I'm not a young man who can forget things anymore like I used to. When you're young, you have this sense that you're like invincible, and you're never gonna die. I don't have that to protect me anymore. I mean, look at me whining when they had that done to them. It's my fault. I should have found them, saved them. I don't know how, somehow, anyhow.
I'm sorry, Hob. I'm sorry. I've got to ask. Can you describe the scene?
Yeah. I can. I didn't know what I was looking at first. I mean, hell, I still don't. It was a stack. Maybe 2 feet thick. From the stink and the coloring, it was obviously made of flesh. I thought maybe he had hacked them up, and then like stacked them up in pieces like that. That would have been bad enough. But the first thing that alerted me to the truth was the eyeball. On top of the stack was a perfectly round eye in the middle of a socket that had been distorted to the size of a saucer. That's when I realized what I was looking at. 20 years of torture, basically, is what I was looking at. He had the entire Driscoll family under those presses for 20 years. He was keeping them alive on an IV drip, increasing the pressure on them so very slowly that their bodies had time to adapt until they had been flattened like pancakes. He squished them by about 1/4 inch every year for 20 years. And then he'd pulled them out when they were too broken, wretched to move, without any chance of recovery, and then he just stacked them on top of each other. I don't know. I have no idea for. I don't want to know what for. And I was still thinking, thank God they're all dead, when the one on top started gasping again.
What did they say?
Well, they didn't say anything at first. Nothing at first. It couldn't speak without help. I think it would have been Avery Driscoll. Not that I could tell much about the gender or the age, but the hair was blonde, where there was hair at least. The head was a mess of scars. I think the son of the bitch who did it must have removed parts of their skulls. I've got no idea how he got their heads so flat. Otherwise, not as flat as the rest of the bodies, sure, but flat. Who the hell knows how their brains handled that? Their lips were they were punctured by their own teeth everywhere after the presses had flattened out their noses, I guess. Avery was 14 when she disappeared. I've stopped shaking. Wow. That's damn weird, the way our bodies work, isn't it? What else? There was a machine. It was a sort of pump. I followed a hose with my flashlight and realized everyone in the stack was hooked up to that pump. I don't think they could breathe on their own, not after a while. There simply wasn't enough volume for their lungs to inflate. There was some sort of opening cut right into each of their chest, and there was a switch on the pump. I don't know why I pressed it. I was in a panic. I wanted to do something. Maybe some stupid part of me thought that if I switched it on, they would inflate and be okay, So I switched it, and it increased the volume of air to the topmost hose, and I could hear the pump working harder, which is when Avery started to scream. He begged me to kill him. He said other things too. He didn't make much sense. He kept yelling "Bane of Error" over and over again. Something about the family too. Didn't understand it. He was in pain. And I hope, or at least I would hope, that he had gone insane several years previously.
Oh my God.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly. Funny enough. I didn't know what to do. He wouldn't stop screaming. I think he was convinced I was his torturer. A closer look at his eye revealed that it was mostly a mess of white scar tissue. He was blind as a bat. That thing quit working a while ago. I spoke with some burn victims once, and they told me that they managed to find meaning and purpose again after a while. And that makes sense. That makes sense for them. I get it, but I don't know how anyone in the Driscoll family could have done that. You know, I said my name. I told him I was a detective. I told him I was there to help. I repeated it over and over again, knowing, of course, that there was nothing that anyone anywhere could do to help. Miss Bomber arrived. She was drawn by the sound. Before she saw the stacks, she told me that I had screamed and she had come to help, but I don't remember having done that. But nevertheless, she had arrived, so I must have. Then she saw the stack and screamed, but I was intent. I was like looking at Avery Driscoll, and he was able to hear. So he became lucid for a few moments. And it was a strain to understand what he said, but I'll never forget what I think he said. You know, he said something to the effect of, "Please kill me. It hurts. I don't want to be a monster. Kill me, kill me. Tell my family I died a long time ago. I don't know if they're still looking for me. Don't let them know what happened to me. Please kill me." He could still cry somehow, and he did. Although his tear ducts were they were too deformed for it to be noticeable, but I knew what he was doing. I should have forced Miss Bomber to leave. That's the only action in the matter, which I regret more than failing to solve the case, 20 years ago. Not just for her own sake, but, what she did next. I don't think she could have wounded them any more deeply if she tried. She took away the last comfort any of them in the stack had. So you see, they had not been able to speak to one another for 20 years. And so she looks at them and she says, "That's all of them, isn't it? That's the entire Driscoll family. They're all alive in there, the whole family." So for 20 years, to understand why that meant so much, for 20 years, each member of the Driscoll family had been unaware that their fellow inmates were the other members of the family. So they were blind, like I mentioned, they couldn't hear each other. So they'd all been holding out hope that their family was okay. All of them probably dreaming someone out there, loved them and was free from suffering. Do you know what the screams of 6 people tortured over 2 decades, smashed down to a width of 4 inches, sounds like when they're all stacked on top of one another? I'll tell you what it sounds like. It sounds like the gates of hell swinging open.
I think that's enough, Detective Millgate.
Well, not yet, actually. So it was my mistake. I should have tried harder. I tracked down that lead. Maybe that's what they meant, screaming that. It was my error, so it was my responsibility. So I did the only thing I could do to help them at this point. I shot them. Mercy's hard, but I owed it to them. I'm the one that failed to save them. So it only took 1 bullet, to go all the way through. I emptied the revolver though, I wanted to make sure they didn't linger another second if they didn't have to. To give them that final piece. It was the only kindness I had to give them. So we left and we called for backup. After that, neither Miss Bomber nor I wished to remain with the bodies. I elected not to follow the crime scene investigators back into the basement. I asked if I could make my statement and leave, and after one of them saw what I had seen, they agreed. That sedative I talked about, can I have that now?
Yes. Yes, of course.
Okay, all right, cool, thank you. Please show in the paramedic. I'll roll up my sleeve. My wife's diabetic, so I'm well aware of the routine. Please make sure you have the same courtesy available for Miss Bomber. She seemed to have it worse than me, afterwards at least. That poor woman couldn't even throw up or cry.
Of course. Do you know where she is now? She told the lead of the crime scene she was going home, but we haven't been able to reach her.
Did you try the paper?
Which paper?
Her paper, the Daily World.
Are you sure? There's no one with the last name Bomber on staff with the Daily World.
And with that, we have the end of the story.
So old Bomber was the one who did it, you think, huh?
I think that's the implication. Or she was like an accomplice or something like that, yeah.
Her last name was Bane.
Oh, Bomber. Yeah, what was it?
Bane of Air Bomber.
Bane of Air Bomber. Yeah. Didn't put it together.
Maybe. That's just what I read in the comments there. What'd you think of that one?
It was fun. I enjoyed reading it.
A lot of detective stuff today. A lot of like transcripts back and forth.
A lot of a lot of that and Eyeless Jack.
That and Eyeless Jack, which you can't put a price on gold.
You can't. See, now you're getting it. How do I feel about that one?
I think it has an interesting. I liked it. I think that it's fun to have the people pressed together like a weird pancake thing. Even though I have no idea what you would get. I don't know what you would get out of that. It's kind of like a weird form of torture or whatever, but maybe a bit more of the investigative side, or maybe even it would have been fun to have it not be a transcript and just be like a log or something, like you're following the person on the first time of this, you know? Which I know that it sets up the kind of the very creepypasta ending of you have the person being like, but there is no person named this at the Daily World. Or
yeah,
whatever.
the ending's kind of like stereotypical. I can't tell you how many creepypastas I've read that have ended like, oh, what do you mean? That was my best friend Clay. And they're like, Clay's been dead for 14 years. You know, like,
what?
Yeah. It kind of does that. So I'm not crazy about that.
The idea of hydraulic, it's kind of the same thing, the same complaint I have with Jigsaw, where it's like, yeah, you're an engineer, but how the hell do you have the money or resources to like set up these elaborate things? Like in Jigsaw or Saw, the movie Saw, it's like, how many industrial park places are abandoned for you to set up these crazy traps? And with this, it's kind of like, how did they set up? I mean, what were the dimensions again? It was like 6 feet by 8 feet, like huge.
Massive. It's a human pancake press.
It's a hydraulic press, which once again, for the story, it's fiction, whatever, you know, you can have the suspension of belief. But still, I'm just like, who has the resources to do that?
I felt, so I was actually kind of laughing a bit leading up to, because I could tell like where he was going as soon as he said stack. I knew what he was getting at.
I looked at the camera like, okay.
I was starting to giggle a bit. It wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. I thought they were going to be like completely formed pancakes. Like,
I thought somebody was going to be eating them, or like cannibalism, because the whole thing too is like, oh, they're getting ready for breakfast. It's like, just because you squash somebody like a pancake, I guess it's because then it makes it seem like the person has like a pancake fetish, because they even send them a menu. It's like, you can squash somebody, that doesn't mean like they're a pancake. Like, what the fuck?
There's also questions where he's like, yeah, someone can be flat, but like pancake's a bit of an exaggeration, I guess. I mean, I get it, but whatever. But what he was talking about, he saw the stack. I thought they were going to be perfectly formed pancakes and stuff, so that's why I was laughing a bit. But thankfully there was some level of trying to incorporate biology, like they have a machine for their lungs, they're blinded.
Yeah,
they
I mean, like the body horror aspect of it is
flex.
cool.
Like that works kind of well.
Yeah.
That there's some thought given to the logistics of it. But that being said,
to me, it falls into the worst category where it's not totally incompetent and stupid to be really funny, but it doesn't leave enough lasting impression to where, like, I feel like it's just kind of forgettable. You know?
There's not really a narrative or anything. Like I said, I had fun reading it, but there's not really a narrative. It's just kind of like, oh, here's a bad thing that happened. and then you are like taken like, isn't this disturbing? Be disturbed. And you're like, well, I mean, I guess if I saw this in real life, that'd be pretty bad, but I'm reading about it. And that, but if it doesn't catch you as like, oh, this is so disturbing, yeah, then it just falls through. It's just a guy describing something he saw for a while. It's honestly, you haven't seen this yet, but for the audience, it's honestly like urban spook. A lot of that work. I have the same critiques about this that I do that. Like, if it doesn't get you as being so like, oh, this is awful, then it's not going to do anything for you.
Yeah.
I liked the writing in some parts. I think.
Yeah, I thought it was fine.
I think that was nice.
I think some of the dialogue was a bit like him continuously
It's a bit
asking for the
much.
sedatives. I thought was a bit overplayed.
Yeah, it's like what do you mean? You went to do an investigation and you're like, does a paramedic have sedatives or whatever? It's like, that's kind of weird.
Which I get it. It's like the guy's shaking up, but I feel like there's other ways you could go about it. I mean, like all in all, I'm finding more and more though. I really like these detective kind of like. I like the idea of somebody actually trying to uncover something and like it's somebody's duty and job. Like that's always a fun. That's always like a fun way to play with a narrative, in my opinion. So I would be interested to see more of these, and it's nice too that it's not like it's not a kid. Or it's not like it doesn't come from this perspective of like a teenager and like, you know, kind of like a group of kids or something that are dealing with something kind of like it or, you know, like Baraska, that kind of stuff. I kind of like the idea of it being like an older investigator. It's just that it felt different in that way from some of the other stuff we've read. At least it felt unique in that way. But
it's kind of just a description of a thing that happened, and if that descriptor is not super intense, over the top, spooky to you, then it's kind of whatever. But if you really like this story because you found the whole human squish concept scary or like creepy, then you know I totally understand. But for me, whenever he's like, "Oh, I walked in," I knew where he was going. Where he's like, none of the rooms could hear each other. And then there was a press above a hospital bed. I like paused for a second. I'm like, there's no way.
Yeah. It's just like,
no
6 feet by 8 feet wide hydraulic press. I mean, do you understand the engineering? Like how crazy big that fucking thing would be? Also, the whole thing too
this
is
you're
keeping
like
them
an auto manufacturer level of
you're
scale.
keeping them alive through an IV drip. It's the problem is it's funny enough actually when I was reading this because I was kind of like okay, this is where we're going. It was kind of the same critiques I had with that movie Longlegs, where it was like you introduce an interesting
watch your mouth, watch your tone.
you introduce an interesting element through this investigation, right? Of like a crime. But you really don't do anything that's earned through investigating it. The same thing with Longlegs of like the person just drops off the code to be like, hey, here, decipher this now because it's time. It's the same thing of like, oh, the killer just kind of shows up to the detective and is like, hey, I have some leads. And it like nothing feels earned. And then it's just like the shock value aspect of it for the sake of shock value. And I think that's like the really integral part of like if you do a kind of like detective kind of crime thriller is you have to have like the fun stuff of the fun visuals, but then you need to have an interesting investigation, kind of like Seven or Silence of the Lambs, to where you're watching these reporters go through or detectives really go through the ringer of unveiling these things that leads to a very finite, satisfying conclusion that also acts as like a character arc for them as well. It's just kind of the thing, which to be fair, it's a short internet horror story. It is what it is. But I just think it's interesting because I do think that this could be done in a really sweet way. Maybe not pressing people into pancakes for just the sake of them being pancakes, but even just the idea of it's horrifying thinking people are being abducted and tortured for 20 years. That's like also, disgusting.
What was the not safe for work tag on that? Like
I'm guessing it's the very graphic detail of how they're pressed and stuff, because there was some elements of like mutilation and stuff. Nothing as crazy as we've seen, but I wonder if they're just being safer, like, you know, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So, all in all, though, I want to say too, I think that you did a great job with the voice acting of that guy. Like a very shaky thing. I thought that you did a really good job.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I figured might as well have fun with it, right? It got hard to keep that I really wanted to break when he was like,
I heard a couple times, and I was trying not to derail it either, but I was like, yeah, let's just keep the pace going. So I'm glad you didn't break. But no, I'm curious to see what people think too. I do think, I like the first story a lot. I think that was the highlight of today. Besides, obviously, Eyeless Jack being very funny, but
Eyeless Jack was my highlight.
But I think like the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas is just a fun concept. It didn't go too far. I think that you could like with that thing, it's like almost if it was a movie or something, that would be a really fun movie to watch. Something like that. Kind of I don't know why, but it had elements of like The Bay, of like that those like time unfolding in a way through footage that is found footage. I could see the disappearance of Ashley, Kansas being something similar.
Yeah, I liked it. That was pretty. I think that was the best story we read today. But my favorite was Eyeless Jack.
Yeah. Oh, also, I just want to say too.
It was my kidney.
Just want to say, the last thing we recorded, we didn't know what our tickets were. Like the tour sold out like almost instantly. So we're looking forward to seeing all you guys. We got some fun stuff.
I think there's
planned.
like 60 seats left across all four
I think
shows
across
or
GA,
something
but
like
I don't know. I've been seeing people. I don't know. Even by this time, it could be totally. But it's basically sold out. So we appreciate you. I've been seeing people try to fucking do scalping
you all
tickets.
Are incredibly cool.
Yes.
I'm blown away by that. Thank you guys very much. Means a lot.
But until next time, y'all, we appreciate you. Stay very, very scared out there, and also be sure to send some stories or give us any stuff that you might want us to read. This was a fun one. I think this was a good little thread of suggestions, so we appreciate it.
It was a good mix up, and thank you all very much for watching. Thank you all so much for the support you've shown on everything from the merch to the tickets. It really does mean the world. So thank you all. But with that, I think we're done. So stay creeped out.
Stay creeped, you stupid sons of bitches. How's that? Is that going?
Okay, well, maybe that's a bit much.
Stay creeped, you assholes.
That's still a bit violent.
You fucking vile dogs.
How about stay spooky, you bunch of dorks. Stay spooky, you creeps. There you go.
There you go. Bye.
There we go. Yeah, bye. My daughter wants to eat a woman who shares her birthday. The only way this is going to make sense is if I start at the beginning. August 21st, 1982. A baby girl was born shortly after midnight. I wasn't the mother's doctor, but I was the attending on the same labor and delivering floor. Even though the newborn's Apgar, I'm sure that my sister's a nurse. She could probably tell me what that is. Even though
editor, put in a Apgar definition because I don't know.
Apgar thing. I assume it's something to do with the baby stats or whatever.
Yeah, the baby's baseball card.
Pretty much. She was clearly in great distress. The on-call pediatrician raced the child to the NICU. 20 minutes later, I was called to consult.
You want me to check on the mother?
I'm an obstetrician. I care for pregnant women and deliver their babies. Once they're born, the infants become pediatric patients. Why was I being called into the neonatal unit?
No, Dr. Kaizen, it's the child.
Please, come to the NICU.
I heard panic creeping into my colleague's voice. The baby lay in a NICU incubator, screaming. The nursing staff stood at a distance. None of them were looking at the child. They stared at the floor or the far wall or at me. They were experienced neonatal ICU nurses. They had dealt with every horrible condition that could possibly result from birth, but whatever was in the incubator had rattled them.
How is this an obstetrics case?
The pediatrician gestured to the incubator.
Please examine the patient, Dr. Kaizen, and tell me what you think.
The baby girl looked like a healthy birth weight baby, 8 pounds or so, but her abdomen was terribly distended. She certainly had a good reason for screaming. I gently palpated the girl's bulging belly, expecting to feel signs of fluid or gas. I didn't. Instead, I felt an enlarged uterus. The fundus was near the infant's sternum. I gently squeezed the sides of the child's belly, feeling with my fingertips a miniature version of what I feel with my whole hands in adult patients. I placed my palm on her tiny belly. There was an almost imperceptible flutter. Something gently pushed against my hand.
So is this saying that the baby is pregnant, pretty much is what they're saying? The baby's like a little Russian nesting doll or something.
Yeah, there's a baby inside the baby. I turned to the NICU staff. Their eyes were locked on me, hands holding their mouths or touching their foreheads. I said,
This infant is pregnant, and she's in labor.
Oh my God.
Ew, gross.
Good fucking Lord.
Oh man, disgusting. I did my best to remain calm, but I heard my voice crack as I spoke. Something was inside this newborn. Something had grown inside her as she developed in the womb, and it wanted to get out. I have as much experience as the NICU nurses with the terrible effects of abnormal pregnancies. No matter what condition my patients and their fetuses had suffered from, I never felt what I felt in that moment. Fear. Fear of what was inside of this baby. I delivered the infant's baby by cesarean section. The operation, normally performed on an adult to deliver a normal-sized child, was difficult and time-consuming due to the mother being an infant herself. When I was done, I felt the infant's own baby in my hand. A tiny, 2-inch long, but fully developed and very much alive baby girl. My fear dissipated and was replaced with a more ordinary sense of concern. This impossible little baby who only 2 hours earlier filled me with fear was, in the end, still a baby. She needed to be cared for. Premature babies, children born months too soon, require extreme interventions to keep them alive. Lungs, for example, require nearly 9 months to mature. Premature babies, as small as the child I delivered, always require breathing support. But this baby had no breathing problems. Her color was good. She cried normally. Her lungs had the full 9 months of development. Somehow this child had been conceived at nearly the same time as her mother and gestated for 9 months inside her simultaneously gestating parent. This, of course, is impossible.
How did you get here?
I asked her after I gently laid her in her own NICU incubator.
Don't answer that. I think I'll be better off if I don't know.
What an interesting, This is an interesting, body horror setup.
Yeah, it's weird. But the idea of like a baby that's like a Russian nesting doll, pretty much, where it's like there's no rhyme or reason, almost like what is it, divine? What is it called when it's
Immaculate conception?
Yeah, almost like an immaculate conception thing, like a really fucked version of that.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up. The grandmother, the 22-year-old woman who delivered a pregnant baby, wanted nothing to do with the miraculous daughter her new child delivered. She referred to her granddaughter as the excess tissue you removed from my baby. Honestly, what else would you say, right?
Well, I guess it's just the idea. It's a healthy. It's a tiny keychain baby. Don't get me wrong, but
the only thing I would think is maybe it was like a twin. Like it was twins, and then one of them tried to absorb the other twin because that happens. Maybe it wasn't absorbed; it kept developing by something. I guess that'd be the only rhyme or reason you could give it.
Yeah, well, it's crazy that it's it's completely healthy. It's just small. And it's weird too that the baby's ovaries were working and it's just so fucking crazy. But I guess too, I would probably be living in denial as well.
Be like, okay, absolutely not. Right.
Yeah.
The NICU nurses never warmed up to the grandchild. They did the minimum necessary to keep her healthy, but they didn't dote affection and attention onto her as they did with the other tiny patients. I'm not religious, but I do believe in the idea of universal balance, cosmically and individually. 3 years earlier, my life was thrown into imbalance when my wife died of an aneurysm. This tiny girl born to an infant mother, the girl referred to as excess tissue, filled me with a sense of direction. I sensed in her a path towards the equilibrium that I lost. I adopted her. I named her Helen. The grandmother's reaction and the impersonal way the NICU nurses treated Helen told me that I needed to hide the circumstances of her birth. If her grandmother and the nursing staff couldn't find a way to see Helen as a person, then how would the rest of the world treat her? From the perspective of the adoption papers, Helen was born premature to a mother who was not competent to raise her. This is true. How could her mother, an infant, raise another infant? The family, the paperwork we recorded, did not want anything to do with the child. Also true. The fact that Helen's mother was only 90 minutes older than Helen was omitted. Man, okay,
so creepy.
What I really like about this author is he pushes these scenarios where sentences like that exist, right? Because there were a couple times in the last story it was like that. It was like I blinked, years passed, right? What a cool like predicament we've got ourselves into. And then that line, the mother was only 90 minutes older than Helen. Like, what, you know, stuff like that's just so cool.
I think it shows too that with confidence in writing, in any sense, like very Cronenberg. One thing I love about like Cronenberg stories is there's really no explaining the world. It's just kind of showing. Like it's just like this is just it is what it is. And by doing so too, you immediately get bought in. And like there's so many times where people would try to justify this, or like they would do a whole lap around to have this make sense, versus just being like it. I mean, it's just it is what it is. 90 minutes older baby. It makes no sense, but you're fully engrossed in the story.
Yeah, it's like it doesn't matter how we got here. We're here now. What do we do with it?
Yeah, this is the reality you're in. Buckle up.
Yeah. The adoption process required a maternity and a paternity test. Both parents must approve the adoption. Given Helen's strange background, we tested her mother, the infant, and her grandmother, the 22-year-old new mom, and her husband. The DNA analysis proved that the infant who bore Helen was indeed Helen's mother. The 22-year-old mom and her husband were Helen's grandparents. The implication is astounding. 9 months before Helen was born, some unknown male DNA entered her mother, who had yet to be born. The DNA somehow combined with the mother's, and Helen began to exist.
Oh, weird.
Pretty weird.
Do you think that this is going into immaculate?
I think that's
Conception?
what it's saying, or it's going to be like some. This author, I mean, we've only read one of his stories, so I don't know. But off the one we read, it was very sci-fi, right? So maybe it's more of a sci-fi thing, you know, like maybe this child was like created by like a non-human entity, like maybe the father or the mother isn't human or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's an interest. Like as soon as the narrator said, "I'm not a religious person," I figured that it was going to go into a place that is going to test the person's belief system.
Faith, yeah.
Right.
Probably. I mean, this certainly would. This is insane.
Yeah.
I raised Helen and she grew up. She was a normal kid, mostly. I hate to gloss over or trivialize our happy years together. Please try to picture a single dad happily raising a beautiful, brilliant, and energetic daughter. The incidents I recount here only stand out now that I see what Helen became. Were these warnings that I ignored or that I rationalized away as evidence of Helen's fantastic imagination? The first incidents happened when Helen was 8 years old. We were eating lunch at the mall food court. I was talking to her and I paused for her to respond. She didn't. Her attention was laser focused on something on the other side of the seating area. I turned and followed her gaze. Another girl, about the same age as Helen, stood in line with her mother to get pizza. Got a sick feeling in my gut when I realized who the mother was. I'd only met Helen's grandmother a few times, but I remember what she looked like. Little girl ordering pizza was Helen's mother. The woman was Helen's grandmother. At that time, Helen had no idea that she was adopted.
Why are you looking at those people, Helen? I'm looking at the girl. I want to eat her.
Why do you want to eat another person?
Not any person, Dad, just her.
Helen, that's not an appropriate thing to say.
I know, but it might help me get out one day.
Get out what? What out of what?
She never answered. Bro.
I like that.
That's fun. See what I mean? We're in such a weird scenario. There's like a little child that's like shouldn't exist and wants to eat her mother who's the same age as her.
One thing with people that do this kind of stuff and they just go full force with this like just full steam ahead with these weird ideas is that you're then able, like, then there's no boundary. Like the absurdity of things are all believable and like you treat them seriously, you know? Versus if you had it so grounded and then all of a sudden someone said something absurd, well, then you're just like, you're dancing around the idea of like, well, what? Why would they do? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I love this. I think it's great.
Yeah, it's like we're gonna pick one really weird thing, and I'm gonna commit to it. It's gonna be weird. The opening lines, like the baby's pregnant, right? And now it's like we keep following that. It's not pulling from other places to be strange. It is strange in its own unique sense, and I like that. The second strange event occurred when Helen was 10 during a visit to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. We wandered the galleries together. I paid more attention to what Helen found interesting than to the art itself. I wanted to know what she found boring and what inspired her. We found ourselves in front of a 19th century oil painting depicting Christ's descent into hell. The gloomy painting featured a desolate landscape, a burning city filled with the dead, monsters, demons, the river Styx, and, of course, Jesus himself breaking down the gate to gain entry into hell to rescue the souls of the just. Helen stopped abruptly in front of the painting. She stepped towards it, studying the painting so closely her nose almost brushed the canvas. She examined each detail carefully, moving deliberately from each figure to feature to the next so she wouldn't overlook anything. Finally, she scrutinized the depiction of Christ breaking down the gate to hell. She started giggling, then laughing loudly.
What's so funny?
I wasn't worried at that point, just curious.
The picture's so silly. Christ descending to hell is silly? What? The gate is silly. The gate is the way out of hell, not into it. You don't need to break in. You need to break out. It's just so funny. Plus, the door isn't big enough.
Yo!
Fuck that. I'm like, yeah, this would be the time where I do. Sounds good, Helen. I'm going to go get some Dippin' Dots, and I would leave that little bitch there forever. No way in hell.
You know for a fact it would know how to find its way home.
Oh, God, easily. I had cab fare. Helen,
Yeah,
how did you get cab fare?
Yeah, I'm going to eat you now, like a little monster thing.
Daddy, I'm hungry. I want your toes.
Yeah. I hope, you know what? I hope your kid bites.
God, no shit. Well, it's going to happen now.
That would fit. That would be so fitting if you had a biter. Oh, man. Dude, that is so... well, that's not what the gate to hell looks like. Oh, it's great. Now I was worried. The image of Helen's mother screaming in the NICU incubator with Helen squirming inside of her flashed into my mind's eye. The fear that I experienced when I felt Helen kicking in her mother's miniature womb flooded me.
Helen, what are you talking about? When I go to hell, I'm going to eat my way out through my bloodline. Good fucking God! My word! Helen, why do you think you're going to hell? That's a very sad thing for a little girl to believe. It's just something I know. I remember it, even though it hasn't happened yet. Oh, wow.
Oh,
that
let's
is
go.
so sick.
Let's go.
That is so fucking sick. I love it.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool.
I think the dad's just like looking at her.
Even though it hasn't happened yet.
The dad like looking at her kind of like a little confused, but like almost emotionless. And he's like,
and also thank God it didn't go a weird route, right? Like with like the pregnant child or whatever. It's like her soul was taken from hell and just thrown somewhere to be reborn. Dude, you know what?
I would be so pissed if I was that dad where I'm like, I took home the fucking keychain baby and everyone was giving me odd looks and I thought I was being a good guy. Turns out that they were like fully right to be so suspicious and weirded out. Turns out they were
completely right. Turns out I'm the one who didn't recognize the demon.
I'm apparently the fucking asshole here. Cool.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm the bad guy. Man. Gosh, that's so cool. Then she skipped away to the next gallery of paintings. See, here's the thing. People always they try to be absurdist and they'll recreate it and it always comes out as nonsensical, right? It's always like, oh, well, everything's just random. And it's like, no, this isn't random. Sure, it's an absurdist concept, but it has a track of logic that it's sticking with, at least so far, right? Of like, the child was weird, it was strange, and now it wants to eat her, and now it's a thing from hell. Like, you're developing off the same idea in a pattern of logic. It's just a very weird one you've pulled out of.
I think it works well. It works well because of the absurdity of how the child came to be, right? Yeah. So now you're starting to weave this web of the backstory or kind of like more of the demented side. So even the way that the child is born in this immaculate conception kind of thing is interesting because you believe it's going to be a religious, but it's, you know, kind of the negative side of that religious.
Yeah.
You know, like it's fun. I really like it.
It bangs. I like it so far. The final incident that stands out in hindsight, some kind of red flag, happened 7 years ago. Helen was doing postdoctoral work at Lawrence Livermore, but was home for leave during the Christmas holiday. Helen was a workaholic. She might have been on vacation, but she never stopped working. This is fun too, just the idea that like for like 20, 30 years, she was a perfectly normal girl, except he can only think of 3 times she was weird, right?
Yeah.
Also, I guarantee you, this kind of woman would absolutely decimate half of the men watching this video.
Oh, 100%.
Man. Could you imagine like an actual demon lady who like remembers hell and stuff?
Cleaning up shop. Cleaning up shop.
People up. Several men in these comments would falter. I fear.
El Diablo.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Just fall over themselves to give their soul away. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Not saying I haven't been there before, but I have been picked from the vine, so to speak, as sin. So I'm safe.
The
And I can
Lord
judge
has
the rest of
tested
you.
me many times.
I can judge you all from the safety of my basket, as you all hang on the vine, willing to be eaten up by the foxes of the field, so to speak.
As always, thank you for your help in my ongoing attempt to find Alice. I'm now in full contact with the radio show she was working for, and they'll be sending over Rob's submission to the show as soon as they can. I've also looked up every town named Jubilation and have contacted residents from each of them. None of them have the particular junction mentioned in the previous log, Sycamore Row and Acer Street. I even combed Google Maps to make sure. I'm not sure what town Alice passed through last February, but it doesn't seem to exist on public record. The guy who promised to retrace the route from the mirror shop came through and has sent me a few possible addresses for Rob. He also mentioned looking into the game itself more. I'm not sure what he means by that, but I want to be clear, please don't play this game on my behalf. I don't want that on my conscience. Okay, without further ado, here's the following log. Thanks again. So our next log is from February the 10th, 2017. Let's get into it. All right,
Second day.
second,
Pretty much. Second
pretty
full
much,
day.
yeah. Second full day. So really 3 days if you count the, the excise,
initial.
I think. Yeah. So
Right.
day 3, possible opening. I want to address you, the listener, for a moment, with an advance notice concerning the following episode. I'm sure it's not been lost on you that every installment of the series so far has played host to some strange, unexplainable occurrence, and spanned a great many miles of travel. It goes without saying this has been by design. I've been summarizing the countless hours of uneventful meandering and taking extra care to document the strange phenomena we've encountered along the way. I wanted the story to be fast-moving, to have a real feel of progress with every chapter. And that sense of exploratory intrigue is why you're listening to this show. I completely understand. I'm certain it's a primary draw for almost all of you. The twists, the turns, the mysterious, strange encounters along an impossible road. But if that is the case, I feel it's my duty to inform you that, apart from a few notable exceptions, there will be almost no ground covered in this segment, and the monsters we encounter will be all too human. Stress, divisiveness, discomfort, and, as one might imagine, grief. If you want to read the synopsis of this episode on the website and wait for the next part, then you'll be all caught up, and I'm sure we'll be back on our way, heading once more into the great unknown. But I feel it's important to give the aftermath of Ace's capture its own episode, in part due to the significance of the revelations that are unearthed in its wake, but also as a gesture of deference to the man we lost. This is the story of our second night on the road. Interesting. So that's Alice talking, correct?
Yeah, that's her. It seems like it's her prefacing the log.
So
before going back into it.
That's interesting. I was thinking maybe we were reading like her notes of everything, but that implies that she's at a place further along that she makes note of what's happening. So does that imply Alice gets out at the end of all this?
I don't know if it necessarily gets out, but do you think that this could just be foreshadowing for something, or as you could also see, she could be, because I don't think that even the dialogue is supposed to be extremely accurate. If we're supposed to be under the impression that this is a journal entry, so it could be something where it's like her recounting this in the future and writing this after the fact versus in real time, or
Yeah, that's
like
true.
at the end of days or something.
That's true. Okay, good point. As we make the left turn, the horrifying space behind us is quickly replaced by a quiet emptiness ahead. The Wrangler crawls, defeated, toward the waiting convoy. The remaining 4 cars are parked haphazardly, taking up more than half the road. Rob drifts to the far end of the tarmac, looking to overtake and resume formation. Both of his hands rest on the steering wheel, with eyes fixed on some distant point in space. It's not hard to imagine that behind the focus and the quiet control, there's a man in turmoil. A man who can't bring himself to say anything, in fear of saying too much.
This is Bristol All Cars. We're heading back on the road. Get yourself in formation and make your way to those around you. We've got a while to drive before we start for the night. Bristol, where's Ferryman? Ferryman's here.
Where's Ace?
Ace didn't make it across. What? What the fuck? Bristol, where is he?
It would be simple to describe what had taken place, or at least summarize the bear's facts. What happened to Ace, where he is now, why he isn't coming back. But for some reason, I can't utter a word about what's transpired. Something about the event itself makes it impossible to retell, as if the requisite phrases have been locked behind glass.
We need to get to a stopping point. It isn't safe to stay here.
Shortly after we turned the corner out of Sycamore Row, Rob implied that the rest of the day's drive would be uneventful. Had he waited just a few minutes longer, he would have been entirely correct. We're on the road for another 4 hours, both of us quietly attending to our own preoccupations as the forest gradually thins out. The landscape gives way to rolling cornfields that stretch out beyond the horizon on both sides. With the sun descends through an orange sky as we pull into a clearing, beside a wild grove of apple trees. Rob turns off the ignition and the two of us sit in silence. Rob's need to concentrate on driving had been a good excuse to stay quiet, a good excuse to not face each other. Now the wheels aren't turning, however, and the true reason for our mutual retinids is all too clear.
So they started out, just to be clear, they started out in the desert, and then it seems like they're moving towards the Midwest now. Like we got into
That's the vibe
big
I get,
trees and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
So I'm wondering if that's like Utah or Colorado, and now they're kind of getting into like Kansas, Midwest, like Iowa territory or something like that.
Yeah, because they're driving for like days at this point, right?
days.
So you can cover a lot of
literal
ground.
days.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Even if you broke it up in like 8-hour shifts, I mean, like, 2 8-hour days is still 16 hours worth of driving. I mean, it would be a lot. Do you think he's dead?
I don't know. Rob's response isn't reassuring, and I'm oddly grateful for that. There are no comforting words he can give me, and any attempt would have seemed horrifically insincere, a mockery of the situation's onerous gravity. Given the circumstances of Ace's capture, I'm not even sure which answer I want to hear. Lilith appears at my window, rapping her knuckles against the glass with an aggressive impatience. I'd expect nothing less about now. Everyone in the convoy has been made to follow a unilateral order, my order, without explanation. They've been traveling for hours, accompanied by the glaring absence of another human being. Looking in the wing mirror, I glimpse the rest of the convoy, standing by their cars, watching the Wrangler expectantly. Rob's hands still haven't left the wheel. With a sharp intake of breath, I push the door open and step out onto the grass. The ground is soft below me as I walk over to the group. There's recently been rain. I begin to address the rough semicircle. It almost feels like one of Rob's briefings.
What's happening, Bristol?
Did Ace turn back?
I meet Apollo's eyes. For the briefest of moments, I considered telling them all exactly that. Maybe it would save them from the slow, heavy ache that's currently weighing down my chest. Maybe it would just save me from a difficult conversation. Either way, I know I can't lie to them. They deserve the truth, however unpleasant.
No, he didn't turn back. They crippled his car.
The low truck? Did he get out?
The answer doesn't come easily. I've been pressed to say the words aloud and, in doing so, to fully acknowledge what happened. Feels like I'm being driven to a funeral, like I'm being verbally marched towards an open casket.
What happened to him? Bristol.
He's dead, Eve. I hadn't heard Rob step out of the car when he reaches the group. It's hard to hide my relief as he takes over proceedings, addressing the group matter-of-factly. Now it really is like one of his briefings. 2 guys in the tow truck coming out of Jubilation. I got him. They took him back with them to town. The way they retrieve him, he won't last long.
Oh, goodness. What? Rob, what are they going to do to him?
I can't tell you. Nothing like this ever happened before.
Well, we need to go back.
That ain't happening.
We're not gonna fucking abandon him, Lilith. We're going back.
No, we're not.
Me and Rob can go. You know the place, right, Rob?
The kid's dead, Apollo.
But he was alive when we last saw him.
That's right.
So, what point did you decide he was dead?
When I saw him being carried away with the tow hook sticking out of his mouth, damn it. Rob shouldn't have said that. I understand his...
Fair point. Fair play.
I mean, he is correct.
I mean, come on now.
like...
Yeah. I mean, I think we can all kind of assume that the ghouls that are being shot with their stomachs
Yeah.
hanging out of their, body, I think that we can assume that I don't think Ace is gonna make it.
I mean, like, if it was like Ace walking away, like, hey, I'm gonna catch a ride with these guys if that's cool, I'd get it.
Yeah,
but...
you'd be like, well, what? Yeah, exactly.
but I think the circumstances.
Him and his damn Porsche.
Yeah. It's his fault if you think about it.
Yeah, I know.
Rob shouldn't have said that. I understand his reasons, of course. He wants to convey an important truth, that nothing can be done, or could have been done, to save Ace. His ghastly choice of words does the job, but it also sends a ripple of disturbance through the crowd, planting in everyone's minds the gruesome image I've been trying all day to uproot. Bonnie covers her mouth in shock and sorrow. Eve turns noticeably pale, and even Lilith, who is intent on leading the questioning, is taken back.
Did you see this, Bristol?
I nod solemnly. The group bristles at my affirmation.
I saw enough. I had to close my eyes when it happened. Rob tried to save him until...
Before I can finish my statement, my words are cut off by something truly unexpected. In spontaneous response to my words, a harsh outburst of mocking, sarcastic laughter rings out from within the convoy. One by one, we turn towards its source until we all find ourselves staring at Blue Jay. Her unapologetic chuckling fills the silent night air.
Is something funny, Blue Jay?
Blue Jay tries to speak through her all too slowly waning laughter.
It's just... You call yourself a journalist. You closed your eyes. My God, there it is. There it is. I'm sorry? Do you close your eyes for magic tricks too?
What the fuck, Blue Jay? Come on, this isn't the time. Oh, the time is well fucking overdue. Seriously, are you all morons? The left-right game is a hoax. It's fake. Rob Guthers played you all like fucking children. Ace is fine. He's probably an actor. Like the hitchhiker who was an actor, and those townspeople too. I mean, come on.
The group is taken aback by Blue Jay's incredulous tirade. She's clearly been holding her tongue since day one. Our reaction to Ace's capture representing just one step too far.
I saw Rob shoot one of those townspeople with a hunting rifle. I saw the wound. It was real. It was blood-filled. It was a blood-filled squib. The rifle was probably loaded with blanks. You can buy both from any good theatrical retailer. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Okay, firstly, I don't like your fucking tone. Secondly, have you noticed that we've been the only cars on the road for almost 2 days? And what about Jubilation? Are you suggesting Rob hired out a whole town? That would be fucking impossible. Oh, yeah, sure, that's impossible. But it's totally believable we're driving on a magic road. Maybe this is the highest budget scam I've ever seen. That's all it is. A scam.
and Al Jazeera is giving him all the publicity he wants. I mean, these people are sheep, but you're a fucking sycophant.
My mother used to tell me that you can't strike a person from the high road. Staring down the barrel of Blue Jay's darkly self-satisfied grin, I'm more than tempted to make the descent.
Okay, Blue Jay, fair enough. I'm not going to pretend to know what's going on here. For all I know, you could be right. But why would Rob spend the production budget of a Hollywood film to trick a radio journalist and 2 vloggers? Trust me, our website does not get enough traffic for... Oh! Don't be so self-important. It's not you he's trying to fool.
Blue Jay turns to Rob, fixing him a glare of pure, unadulterated triumph.
Admit it, Rob. Admit it that it's all a fucking farce. You knew who I was before I even got out of my car. Oh.
Ooh. Rob's face looks like it's been carved from granite. The group looks to him for an answer, but he delivers his response directly to Blue Jay, his eyes locked with hers. It's true. I know who you are, Denise. The atmosphere changes, and for a moment, the night erupts into a foray of whispers. Rob's answer clearly means something to everyone but me.
Denise? Denise Carver? No. You serious? Sorry. Who's Denise Carver? She's the biggest killjoy in the hobby. Oh, fuck you, you fucking airhead.
Denise here is a member of the Skeptics and Rationalist Institute of America. She likes to get herself invited on ghost hunting expeditions under a false name so she can debunk them publicly. You may have gathered she don't believe in the supernatural.
Actually, I do believe in the supernatural. I believe that it's a billion-dollar industry built on selling comfortable lies to the gullible. And it thrives on shitty journalists and attention whore bloggers who are willing to spread whatever shit they think can get them clicks. That's why you took so long getting around the pine tree. Even when the truck was coming for Ace. You didn't think any of it was real? Did you?
As condescending as her delivery may be, her words spark a sudden realization. It's true that with an unspeakably high budget and a few deaf stooges, you could probably replicate most of what we'd seen on the road. Yet, without realizing it, I found myself agreeing with Rob's version of events, personally defending the left-right game's validity against its decriers. I'd set off on this journey much like Blue Jay, as a staunch, confident skeptic, but somewhere between the tunnel and this moment, I'd become a believer. Blue Jay notes my lack of protest and turns back to Rob.
I'm flattered you went to all this trouble. I didn't know my work was so offensive to you.
I admire your work, Denise. Always have. That's why I brought you along.
That is bullshit. Tell your friend Ace he can't act for shit.
Blue Jay pulls a pack of Marlboros out of her coat, lighting up immediately, and goes to sit on the hood of her nearby car. Her demeanor clearly signals that her part in the conversation is over, though her words leave a bitter aftertaste for everyone involved. To sympathize, it must be exhausting, spending 2 days with people whose opinions are diametrically opposed to your own, having to listen in silence while they corroborate their own seemingly preposterous views. Having said that, however, I'm incredibly glad she stopped talking. It reminds me of a time when we got on much better. The next question comes from Eve, her voice quivering.
Can we die here, Rob?
The quiet force of her words turns everyone's heads back towards Rob. It's clear that others have been thinking the same thing, and they're looking to Rob for an answer. It's possible. The road ain't ever killed no one before. Not so long as everyone followed the rules.
But you said in your emails it was dangerous.
That's right.
But you didn't feel like telling us that we could die out here?
Rob turns to Lilith, clearly offended by her accusation. In the 1920s, John Evanroe killed 36 people and violated their bodies. In one of your videos, you guys went to his home in Virginia looking for the man's ghost. Bonnie and Clyde once spent $500 to stay at the Iowa Murder House, a place that's supposed to possess its victims and force them to kill each other. If you all honestly believed in what you were chasing, you should be accepting death as an outcome every time you step out. We are looking for evidence of another world. What we're doing here has the scientific significance of the moon landings and cultural significance of Columbus reaching the Americas, and a whole lot of people died doing both. If you accepted the risk chasing down the ghost of a 2-bit serial killer, you should be willing to accept the risk of this. Lilith looks like she's been scolded by a parent. There's a fire in her eyes as she observes Rob, meeting his criticism with scorn.
Oh, so it's Ace's fault? He should have accepted the risk?
He did accept the risk. Ace made his decisions. He saw the dangers of the road firsthand, and he kept on going. I told you this place could be dangerous, and maybe you didn't take it that seriously, but you are not going to treat me like I lured any of you here under false pretenses. We stand for a few moments in the uncomfortable void left by Rob's words. No one's quite sure where to look.
I think that, like, just to, like, I guess, just there's a lot of dialogue happening.
Yeah.
I think it feels extremely unrealistic that this would be a Hollywood fake production that spans, like, how many
Half
thousands
the
of
country,
miles?
yeah.
Yeah, it's like it feels like, which it could be a thing too. Like, you could argue that Blue Jay has never wanted to, like, believe in this thing, so their mind is set up. But I think I wonder how much of it feels like a defense mechanism for seeing something so traumatic. If people are just like, oh, like if it's like almost like an out of body experience, and now you've been looking at it almost as if it isn't real in that way. But it's just the logistics of being like, we've been driving for 2 days, like, and not only has he been driving,
did they
'cause, like,
buy
you can
the
make
United States highway system and rent it
Yeah.
out? Like, what do
Well,
you
I was gonna
mean?
Well, I was gonna say too, if it was him driving, you could maybe make an argument of like, oh, he's been driving for 2 days, but it's been like in a giant circle or something. But it's
Yeah.
like they've all been driving to know what lefts and rights they've been taking, etc. And also even like a 4-hour straight stretch of driving. Like, I don't know, feels a bit wonky. Well, this is Apollo starts talking.
Yeah.
Well, what do we do now, Rob? Do we turn around?
I'm going to make that decision for you. If you want to split off and head back, I suggest you wait till morning and stagger your leaving times by an hour or so. I never seen nothing like what happened back there before, but this is the most people I ever played the game with. Maybe that's doing something.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the only thing that's changed. Truth is, this ain't our world. By all rights, we shouldn't be here. Even when it's one car, the road always tries to discourage you. Maybe it's like bacteria in a vein. One or two might slip by unnoticed, but once it hits a certain point, it's like
an immune system response. You think the road's pushing back on foreign objects?
And the bigger the group,
The more violent the response.
it makes sense. Until Blue Jay laughs once more. Hearing her reaction, I reassess what I'm saying, and I can't help but feel a little foolish at the idea. Maybe. It's just a theory, I don't know. Rob collects himself, regaining his composure. Either way, you all have the morning to decide if you want to keep on the road. Bristol, if you want to go home, you got to find someone to take you. I ain't ready to head back yet. He turns away from the group and marches to the Wrangler. I don't see him again for the rest of the evening, and I have no intention of bothering him. Even Lilith immediately crowd around me, asking if I'm alright, and take it in turns to disparage Rob's actions. I can't bring myself to join in. All I can bring myself to say is,
Can I charge my phone in your car?
this changes my mind on Rob a little bit. Like, yes, I understand, like, he told them it's dangerous in there. That's different from people actively trying to kill you, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I would describe rock climbing as dangerous. That doesn't mean you're actively dodging, like, killers as you go climbing, yeah. So,
No, yeah.
I feel like there's a little bit of his obsession with this myth getting in the way. And of course, like, the revelation of who Blue Jay is changes my idea that she knows what's going on, because she's just as dumb as everyone else. She's just a skeptic and, like, set in her ways about it. So this changes my mind on Rob a little bit. I think there's going to be points in the story where he lets the evil that's happening get to him, you know? Or sorry, not get to him. Like, he's going to let the evil that's happening fall to the wayside because he wants to get to the end, or, like, get to, you know, whatever his objective is in here, even if it puts people's lives at risk. I mean, that's kind of
he's
what he's
been-
already done.
Yeah, in a way, he's already done that. He's been being very ambiguous, even by the end here, saying, Bristol, I'm not ready to go home yet.
Yeah.
You're going to have to find someone else. So it does seem like he has some kind of plan that he's just not saying.
Yeah.
Because pretty much there's no real winning of the game either, is one thing. Like, if you turn around, all you can do is keep going in this universe and, like, just kind of see where you end up.
Yeah.
And I think that, in my opinion, he's been to these parts before. He's been this far in before, but I think he's trying to reach some place that he hasn't been yet. Feels very Lovecraftian. Kind of feels like I forgot what Lovecraft story it was, but it was the one where the guy's in the submarine and he sees like this palace underwater. It's like a German submariner guy. But it's just something.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. I forget the name of it, but I remember.
Yeah, it's giving me those kind of vibes of the thing of like something's calling to him to do this thing. I just don't think he's revealed his whole hand yet. I still don't think that. I think that he is holding stuff in, but I don't know how malicious he is because I wonder how much of this is him experiencing this stuff for the first time.
Yeah.
Even though he is pretty calm and collected. Like, I feel like if Ace was like, you would think that a person would be more upset about somebody's death if it was the first time, you know, like more ecstatic, or not ecstatic, but like more like,
He'd be
like,
more-
oh, this has never happened before. Like, it's not supposed to happen like this or something.
Yeah. I don't believe him that no one's ever died before. I think he knows more than he's letting on. And also, like, his reaction kind of says a lot, where he's like, Ace knew the consequences, or like Ace knew the risk or whatever. It's very calculating regarding someone's death.
It feels like it. It certainly feels
Again,
like
I
it.
don't think he's outright evil. I just think he's going to let his obsession get the better of him.
Yeah, no, I think that the only thing that's evil is going to be the selfish wants he has for this game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, well, on that note, continuing. The group has very little to say for the rest of the night. A deep solemnity, sure, hangs in the air.
I hate the word solemn, dude. Solemnity.
Yeah. Anemone. There you go.
With words we don't understand, or they're hard to say, let's just fucking say bazinga or apple.
Bazinga. A deep bazinga hangs in the air.
Sheldon Cooper appears.
He's just like Sheldon Cooper's just like in the shadows by the tree line.
Hello, Rob.
Bazinga. Hi everyone. I've got the day off work and I wanted to start it by posting up the next log. I also want to thank you all for your responses so far. A few people have linked me to the sites that Robert J. Guthard may have operated on. Someone even offered to look for the mirror shop in Phoenix and try to retrace the route to Rob's neighborhood. I'm going to spend the day making a few international calls and sending emails out, but if you guys have any other ideas about how I could pursue this, I'd really appreciate them. In all honesty, I'm going to need all the help I can get. The whole ordeal has proven pretty categorically that I am no Alice Sharma. Speaking of which, I'm going to let her take it from here. Thanks again. So the story begins. It is still the same draft, although this entry is from February the 8th, 2017.
Yeah, so we're on the day still where the day that she got there was the 7th, so this is the next day when she woke up and he made her waffles and all that stuff, so it's still that day.
The next term comes immediately after the tunnel. We'd been in the dimly lit passage for almost 2 minutes, but at the pace Rob likes to travel, it's hard to figure out how far we'd actually gone. When we descended into the underpass, we were just nearing the outskirts of Phoenix. Scrutinizing the rearview mirror as we leave, it's fair to say we aren't that much further out. Everything else, the temperature, the time of day, the weather, all seems exactly like it had been before we ventured into the tunnel. I'm not sure what I was expecting, of course, but it certainly doesn't feel like we're anywhere new. The tunnel itself had been similarly underwhelming, especially considering the importance Rob seemed to place on it. In fact, the only thing of true interest since we passed through was something Rob said once we hit the halfway mark. As the tunnel's mouth loomed towards us, Rob picked up the CB radio transceiver and issued a casual warning to the convoy. The message itself was straightforward. His choice of words, however, was curious. I decided to ask him about it.
Rob, just a second ago, when you told us the next turn was coming up, why did you use the word trap? I have it in my notes. You said,
Folks, we're coming to the end soon. First little trap's coming up. Our next turn is sharp left as we leave. Our next turn is sharp left as soon as we leave. Look out for it. Is there a reason you used the word trap?
Just one of those things. Fellow who wrote all the original logs, he liked to think the road would try and trick you into making a wrong turn. Small roads off large highways, roads obscured from view, sharp turns like this one.
He thought the road was trying to deceive him.
Yeah, pretty much. I gotta say, I agree with the guy. By this point, we've taken the offending corner and the next right a little further on. I can't help but feel that Rob is reading a great deal into what is, essentially, an abrupt turn in an ordinary road. The level of conspiracy he's able to place behind such a simple thing, going as far as to ascribe some mischievous quality to the asphalt itself, it's hard to take seriously. In fact, I'm starting to wonder less about whether Rob can convince me this game is real, and more about whether I'd ever be able to convince him that it isn't. Perhaps this story will be less about where a magic roadway goes after a few zigzagging turns, and more about where the human mind can go if it invests too heavily in an idea. To his credit, Rob has noted my cynicism. He even seems to welcome it. But if our current surroundings are supposed to convince me, then he's going to find me more cynical than he anticipated. Rob keeps his hands on the wheel and his eyes on the road. Any attempt at an interview receives a pleasant but curt response. He's not being evasive, his attention is just elsewhere. Before I know it, half an hour has gone by without Rob speaking a word. It seems like a part of the left-right game involves driving in complete silence. Once again, I'm not sure what I expected, but it's certainly not been an earth-shattering start. At least it gives me time to type up my notes. Ferryman to all cars. We stop here. An uneventful hour and a half has passed since we left the tunnel. I didn't notice Rob pick up the receiver, but before I know it, the Wranglers pulled up at the side of the road, leaving a large space behind us for the rest of the convoy to park up. The buildings are getting few and far between now. It won't be long until we were in the desert proper. With this in mind, I assume Rob is simply stopping to let everyone drink up. I probably shouldn't assume when it comes to Rob Guthert. Though this is definitely a rest stop, Rob also has some important words for the crew. He gathers us round in a rough semicircle, talking while we eat our provisions. Now, I mentioned in the emails that at certain points on this trip, you need some things just because I say so. This is one of those times, y'all understand?
Yeah, I guess. We get to know what it is, right?
This is when he tells us to give him our money, right, Rob? Yeah, I'd rather know what's going on. I hate Apollo, by the way.
The Apollo voice is so good. He laughs every time he speaks. Oh,
He does.
Okay. And I don't intend on keeping anything from you. I just want to be clear that across this next stretch, you need to follow my orders to the letter.
Yeah, we get it. Just tell us already.
Rob takes a few moments, perhaps to lend gravity to his point, perhaps to swallow some barbed words intended for the increasingly impatient Ace. When he does speak, it's in a measured and serious tone. He's clearly adamant that we take his words on board. For about half an hour, the next 13 turns, we'll be going one by one. We travel in order of formation. Me and Bristol will go first, then I'll radio the next car to follow. When you reach the Jeep, you park up behind me, then we keep going as normal. Now, Rob takes a deep breath in. When he starts up again, his speech is even more pointed than before. There's a hitchhiker on the road. A well-dressed man with a case. You pick him up, you take him where he needs to go. You do not, under any circumstances, talk to the man. To be safe, don't look at him. Don't take anything he offers you. Don't open the door for him or wave goodbye when he leaves. You do not acknowledge him in any way. You want my advice? Don't say a word till you get to the stopping point.
Why do we have to go one by one?
Guy who wrote all the logs says he don't like choosing cars. I don't know what that means, but I'm lucky I never had to find out.
Why don't we just not pick him up?
That isn't an option.
Well, I mean, yes, it is. I don't see why we...
Damn it, you'll pick him up whether you want to or not. Okay, for one, let me just say about that whole interaction, I'm immediately in. That whole thing about a
Yeah, I love that.
hitchhiker, he has a case, don't look at him, just drop him off where he needs to go. This is the kind of like old school Americana folktale that I am all about. Go so hard.
Yeah, we're... I love the introduction of just like weird rules
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yep. So you're going to see a hitchhiker, just pick him up, don't talk to him at all, and just drop him off.
Yep.
Which I'm so stoked to see this interaction with him. I hope the hitchhiker is just fucking deranged.
I'm so excited. This is great. All right. The group is silent. This is the first time Rob's raised his voice. In the ensuing stillness, Ace looks like he'd be more than happy to turn his car around and retrace the route back to Phoenix, leaving Rob in the dust with a few choice words. I can sympathize with him a little. Rob's been treating him as an annoyance, a tag-along who didn't do the homework, but at the end of the day, Ace is doing nothing to fix things. Also, Rob is essentially right. He didn't do the homework.
Well, okay. I suppose we should get back on the road then, if everybody's ready.
Deciding he has nothing more to say to us, Rob marches over to the Wrangler. Bonnie, Clyde, Apollo, and Eve sit on the floor sharing snacks. Ace loses himself in his phone, and Blue Jay, still maintaining a noticeable distance from the group, takes to her car with a copy of US Weekly.
Bristol, can we talk?
I turn around to see Lilith, holding her cell phone with the screen facing me.
Yeah, sure. What's up? Have you tried to make any calls since we came through the tunnel? No, not yet. Why? Could you try?
I pull up my own cell and dial into the office. The line's busy, which isn't exactly uncommon. Lilith watches intently, waiting for a reaction.
I'm not getting through. They were busy? Yeah. Why? Everyone is. We have signal. We can make calls, but everyone on the other end is busy. Don't you think this should just be Don't you think this could just be a coincidence? I really mean everyone, Bristol. Well, Eve's been driving. I've been calling. My camera's automated to support line. 911. You dialed 911. For science, yeah. All of them are busy. I even called this guy at my dorm who has a serious thing for me, and trust me, he is not fucking busy. This is weird, right? It's like we've crossed a threshold and the world's suddenly doing something else, you know?
In all honesty, I'm not sure I do know. I don't want to say it, but it still seems like a massive stretch. Luckily, Rob saves me from commenting when he calls me over to the car, clearly eager to get back on the road. I tell Lilith we'll look into her discovery on the other side, and she nods in agreement, retreating to her friend and immediately stealing a handful of apple slices. I climb into the Wrangler and wave goodbye to the convoy. We slowly roll back onto the road and set off on our way, watching the rest of the group disappear into the background. I feel noticeably more isolated despite Rob's presence, or perhaps because of it. I'm not exactly sure. The hitchhiker shows up about 10 turns later. Just like Rob said, the man is incredibly well dressed. In a well-fitting brown suit with a dark green tie, even from a distance I can see his shoes are expertly shined, as is the varnished wooden case resting on the floor beside them. He stands on the side of the road and raises his hand gingerly, wearing a look of hopeful anticipation.
Who is he?
The hitchhiker.
Is that really all you're going to say?
It's all I can say. You understand the rules here?
Don't talk to him.
I'd say don't talk at all. Not until we stop. When we stop, we're safe. Rob veers slowly over to the side of the road. The hitchhiker smiles appreciatively, grasping his hands together and shaking them in thanks. Picking up his case, he strolls over to the Wrangler whilst unbuttoning his blazer.
See you on the other side.
Oh man, this is so good. The back door opens. The hitchhiker pulls himself into the storage area. Finding no seating, he settles himself cheerfully on some of the softer luggage just behind me.
Not much in the way of seating back here, huh?
I have to admit, I do feel a subtle urge to respond. Even after the stern warnings I've received, to ignore the man seems almost instinctively rude. I was raised British after all.
So, where y'all from? I'm traveling in from Oakwell.
Dude, I'm actually kind of scared right now. Like the idea of just like a happy man who's trying to start a conversation, but for some reason you can't.
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
There's so many like weird red flags too, or not necessarily red flags, but like if you do respond, I bet you that demeanor is not going to be so chipper.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, this is good. All right. I glance at him in the rear view. He meets my gaze and smiles. I flick my attention back to the road, continuing the white lines. The stranger persists in trying to start a conversation. 10 minutes go by. The silence grows palpable, broken intermittently by yet another cheerful attempt at conversation. Topics include what nice weather we're having, our professions, our hobbies. In response, I busy myself with pointless but occupying tasks. I find myself playing games in my head, thinking of common phrases and making them into clunky anagrams. It seems to work, and after a short while, I start to habituate my word to the man's small talk. I almost don't notice that he's there. Maybe that's what allows him to catch me out.
You're just a fucking disappointment, aren't you? Ooh, that's a fun turn. That's a fun turn.
This statement comes out of the blue. It's sharp, venomous, completely divorced from the idle questioning I'd been tuning out. I'm daydreaming when I hear it, and before I can register what I'm doing, I'm turning to face him. My lips are already parting as I go, a reflexive thought reflexively vocalized.
What?
I almost say it out loud. The word is on the edge of my tongue. A single note my vocal cords were all but ready to play. Only the sudden, vice-like grip of Rob's hand on my forearm angers me in the moment. I stare at the hitchhiker, my mouth still open. He's different now. All of the warmth, all of the pleasantry, it's drained from his face like running makeup. His smile is malevolent, calculating, and finally, it feels honest.
You want to know things? I can tell you.
Rob keeps his eyes focused on the road, but his grip on my arm tightens.
I can tell you everything you want to know. Even the things you never knew about yourself. Even the thoughts you didn't know you were thinking. Those little critters. All the way at the back.
We stare at each other for a moment longer before I turn around and back to the road. I don't count the white lines anymore. Now I'm focused intently on anything our passenger has to say. For the next 10 minutes, ignoring him is going to have to take my full attention. He only tries a few more times, reverting back to more innocent questioning. Nothing takes. 5 minutes later, he indicates to a seemingly random point at the side of the road, and Rob drops him off. The man thanks us, climbs neatly out, puts down his case, and waves as we depart. When we disappear around the next corner, he still hasn't stopped. Surprisingly, the silence caused by the hitchhiker's presence isn't nearly as intense as the one left in his wake. I decide to break the tension somewhat ungracefully.
To be fair, we are having nice weather.
Don't talk.
Well, you mad at me? I'm sorry he got to me. I wasn't expecting...
You did fine. We don't talk till we stop. I go back to my notes, making a point to write down my current feelings. For the record, embarrassed but relieved. Once I put the words down on paper, however, I feel something else. Confusion mixed with concern. Because at the end of the day, what was I relieved about? That I didn't talk to a strange man who had tried to talk to me? Was anything really at stake? The more I think about it, the more I realize that the entire episode with this mysterious hitchhiker reduces the left-right game down to two possible states. It's either real or it's an elaborate hoax, perpetuated by Rob J. Guthard. The crazy woman, the tunnel, the malicious left turn, all of those could have been explained as rationalizations, but the hitchhiker was far too elaborate, far too difficult to predict. If he was an actor, then Rob is nothing more than an impressive fraud. If he was genuine, then I'm not entirely sure where that leaves us. Something in the corner of my eye pulls me from my thoughts. A transient, peripheral object that almost completely passes me by before I turn in a weak attempt to catch it. It only gets a few seconds to look before it's gone from my field of view. I face forward once more, sit back in my chair, and let Rob carry us ever further down the road. It's not too long before we finally pull over. You did good. I'm sorry for grabbing you. I just didn't want you to do something you'd regret.
No, it's fine. I was going to... Do you know what happens if you talk to him?
Not sure. Came close myself once, a few years back. The way he looks at you when he thinks he's got you, I don't think I'll want to know.
Rob, I saw something a few minutes ago. I don't know if you've noticed it.
Afraid I had my eyes forward most of the time.
There was a car on the side of the road. It had crashed off the bank. Have you seen that before?
I ain't ever seen that, but random stuff sometimes shows up here and there.
Have people other than you run the left-right game?
No one I know of. Whoever it was, they'd probably just rather crash than face that damn hitchhiker again.
He's there on the way back, too?
If you're unlucky.
Well, something to look forward to.
Rob picks up the CB radio and messages for Apollo to set off, repeating his warnings concerning the hitchhiker. I feel like everyone's going to get a similar speech before they embark. Ace will probably get it twice. Half an hour later, Apollo shows up. Though he laughs about his ordeal, he's clearly a little shaken.
Guy should call himself an Uber. You can't shut those guys up. Did you guys have Uber in England, or?
Yeah.
Oh, then you know what I mean, right?
I imagine, if I had where he said Apollo Creed, I imagine actually, he just passed away. You know who I'm talking about, the actor?
Yeah.
I imagine actual Apollo Creed shirtless in his American, American flag trunks and boxing gloves.
Oh, yeah.
Like stepping out of the car and you like, yeah, guy should call himself an Uber. Like in your voice.
Yeah, steering the car with boxing gloves on.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. Oh boy. I love this story. This is already concept, all of it. There's a group of people. I can imagine people getting picked off to these different creatures they're going to come across. This is awesome. I love it. This is my kind of creature feature.
I'm wondering if Ace is going to get fucked here.
Probably. He may stay around.
I'm wondering.
He may stay around to pester Rob a bit more, but I don't think he's making it out of this trip for sure.
Oh, yeah, probably not.